Welcome to DAX Machina, with your hosts, Naoma Finn, Steve Wildman Munrotis, and D.A. Roberts. Join us as we explore writing, books, authors, and all things horror. We will delve into the sightings, reports, encounters, and tales of monsters. We will also explore the writings of D.A. Roberts along with others in the horror genre. We will investigate the possibilities that monsters may not be safely locked away in the pages of books. They might just walk among us even now. Grab some popcorn and lock the doors. It's going to be a creepy journey. Welcome to DAX Machina.
Good evening, folks, and thank you for joining us on this Wednesday edition of DAX Machina. Joining me, as usual, is my partner in crime, Naoma Finn, and we have a interesting guest in the house tonight. You guys are going to be very pleased to see. Best-selling author Max Hawthorne is jumping in tonight. He's known as the Prince of Paleo-Fiction, so I think it's going to be an awesome ride. Max, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I am great, guys. Thanks for having me on.
You would mind if give our listeners a little bit of background on your books and everything for the people that aren't familiar with them?
Sure. I write the best-selling Cronus Rising series of sci-fi thrillers, which are also called Paleo-Fiction novels because they involve prehistoric marine predators, prehistoric creatures from the past being alive in the present, sort of like Jaws meets Jurassic Park type stuff. And on the side note, I also end up doing a lot of research on the sort of things and ended up doing a lot of cryptid research, had a few unpleasant encounters of my own. And so the latest book I put out was called Monsters and Marine Mysteries, which was an investigative effort into things that I saw and interviews with a lot of people who've seen a lot of famous and even forgotten, mostly marine predators and a few terrestrial ones. So good stuff.
Yeah, I've been going through Monsters and Marine Mysteries. I really like it. Of what I've read so far, I haven't gotten all the way through it, but I'm really looking forward to finishing it because then I'm going to start Cronus Rising. My reading projects kind of got put on hold because of an auto accident this last week, but
I heard about that. Are you all right?
yeah, I'm getting there. Yeah, it's a process.
I've been there.
Naomi, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing quite well, thank you. Just this side of wonderful.
How are you feeling?
I am feeling wonderful. They gave me all kinds of medication. I have a
Well,
personality that's livable now.
well, we've been worried about you. I'm glad you're starting to feel better.
I am, thank you.
Well, if we want to just jump right in here, I know you've got questions, so I'll let you start the ball rolling, Naomi.
One of the things that I saw on Max's channel was an incident with a female orca off the coast of Norway. And I just found that really fascinating. And I was hoping Max could tell us a little bit about that tonight.
Sure. The original video was provided by a Facebook group who gave me permission to use the video and examine it and all this such. But it was from a few years back, and apparently a young female killer whale appears to have been attacked by something off the coast of Norway. In the video, which is on my YouTube channel, parts of it, especially the better parts, you see the animal swimming along, and you can see it's been badly, mauled. We're not talking like, oh, this was interspecies aggression or something like that. This animal's got like a gigantic wedge-shaped bite on its dorsal where something obviously grabbed it and shook the hell out of it. It's missing half of its right pectoral fin, and you can see all the tooth marks where something grabbed and ripped half its fin right off its body. It's got even a wound on its abdomen where something tried to grab it by its chest, and then even one on its ventral region, which looks like it was making a run for it, and something grabbed it one last time, tried to like get a hold of it or something. It's very thin. Orcas, when they're not eating properly, they develop what they call a peanut head, which is where the hump they have behind the cranium tends to thin out, so it looks like the head, and then like this, shaped like a peanut. So I suspect the animal wasn't eating well after it had been attacked, although the attack looks to have been fairly recent, I would say. Maybe a
Do,
week, 2 weeks, something like that.
do you think that's from the physical trauma, or do you think that the orca experienced an emotional? Well, I would imagine it did an emotional trauma. Um, Go ahead.
No, no. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm a little
No, no.
verbose, so I don't want
It's okay. I was waiting for you to jump in anyway.
to. I mean, it depends on the situation. It could have suffered internal injuries by whatever attacked it. Um, it could have. It could be in such bad shape that it's having a hard time feeding, or it's possible that it got some sort of nasty bacterial infection from the wounds. I mean, we know certain species of animals like komodos and things like that have very dangerous slobber, and it's possible that it was infected from all those injuries. So
It was with a bull, right? There
yeah,
was a
there's a
bull with her.
large bull, yeah, that's shadowing her.
Yeah.
To me, it looks like he's on guard duty, like he's protecting her, following
Mhm.
under her, so she can stay near the surface and breathe easier, etc. But it was very shocking, and I was looking at it, and I was trying to figure out. I'm like, I mean, I'm not a marine biologist portrayed, although having been on the water hundreds of times and having filleted thousands of fish in my day, etc., you do get a kind of knowledge of anatomy and stuff that goes with marine life. But I showed the images to a top marine biologist, Simon Pierce, who's mentioned in Monsters and Marine Mysteries, and he's quite familiar with interspecies aggression with orcas and things like that. He said his knee-jerk reaction was that it must have been that. He said, but at the same time, he'd never seen images of wounds like that before. And when I started looking at the wounds, I would say I took stills of them. I took estimates of the whale's length, the diameter, all this stuff, and nothing jibed with extant species. You see people are very quick to dismiss things. Everybody wants to feel secure, or they don't want to believe the impossible might be possible. So, I heard things like, oh, it was from a net. And you're like, right, because nets have like these wedge shaped, like bear traps built into them and teeth that tear like this, I mean, only in certain spots.
It
No.
was a conibear net.
Yeah. Or somebody else was like, it was a giant squid. And I'm like, oh, squid have suckers. The suckers have teeth, sometimes around the edge. Sometimes there's a claw that comes out of the middle. They don't make marks like this, etc. These are definitely bites, not a shark, not a sperm whale, not a false killer whale, which would be way too small or anything like that. It was really difficult to try and figure out what it was. And I even crunched the numbers to see if it could have been another orca, like somehow or something like that. And they didn't match. The bite would have indicated a killer whale that had jaws like twice the size of a bull orca's jaws. It would have had to have been a killer whale at least 40 feet long.
That's a big killer whale.
Yeah, and that's far bigger than the world record that's ever been measured. Not to mention the shape, the tooth spacing. The tooth marks go in a pattern like this. You can see it on her, especially on her dorsal there. And they have these widely spaced teeth. Orca's teeth are a little smaller, and they appear to be closer together. And whatever they dug in, and then you could tell it shook the killer whale like this, like that. And because the teeth marks rip back and forth like this as something was shaking her. So something grabbed this young female and tried to kill her. I mean, pure and simple. And the other bite at the bottom, it could have been two at the same time that hit her. Like one grabbed her from the top and the other grabbed her from the bottom, and then they tried to dispatch her, because those wounds are tremendous also, and they ripped down, and then it took half the fin with it. So this was definitely an attempt to end this animal's life. It wasn't like, I'm a bully, I'm going to pick on you a little bit or something like that.
Were you going to say something, DA?
No, I was just going to read the question.
What?
Lanita Bryant from the chat says, what do you think attacked the whale?
The only thing that seemed to make sense, and this sounds fantastical, but the bite looks like like a reptile of some kind, like a gigantic crocodile or something that isn't supposed to be out there. I mean, I matched up a skeleton of and it's in the video on the site, but the jaws of like an extinct mosasaur called prognathodon, for example, and coincidentally, they happen to be a perfect match. You could adjust the size of the skull, and then click, all of a sudden everything lined up. There was even tooth punctures where the fossil was missing teeth, but obviously in real life the teeth had been there. They're just not preserved. Okay,
right.
But so I mean, there's been many instances where people have claimed that they've seen like crocodile-like creatures with flippers instead of feet. People have claimed their boats have been attacked by them, all sorts of things like that. A lot around New Zealand and such. But there's been sightings. You guys know all this stuff, I'm sure, like the U-571 sighting from World War II. There's
Mm-hmm.
World War I where they sank a steamer, and then when it went down and all the munitions detonated, this 60-foot like crocodile with flippers was thrown into the air, landed there, lay, and then sank from sight. I mean, so people do claim to see things like this. This just seems to be like the first physical evidence of something that may be something along those lines.
I was trying to bring up an image so that we could show our listeners what a mosasaurus is, and I think I found one.
The thought of a
Jurassic World.
mosasaurus.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
I was just saying, Jurassic World has made a mosasaurus quite famous, although their version is a little stylized. Let's say, it has like all the scoots on the back, like a crocodile, and obviously it's much bigger than in real life. But that gives you a sort of an impression, at least.
Yeah, the thought of one of those alive, or actually many of those, that had to be a breeding population, alive and swimming around the ocean is a little terrifying.
It's not something you'd want to encounter while snorkeling or scuba diving. That's for sure.
I would say that would be a very brief encounter on your part.
Yeah, human beings tend to be the perfect sized for a meal for something like that, because they swallow whole.
Yeah, like a crocodile.
Yeah, they actually have pterygoidal teeth on the roof of the mouth. Like there's an extra row that curves backwards, so when they bite on something, it's locked on and it can't get away. And then and their jaws are actually double hinged, so like a snake's, which they're actually descended from. So when a mosasaur is chomping down on something, it can dislocate its jaw and then swallow it whole. Huge meals.
Whew.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty terrifying. I never knew they fed that way. That's horrifying.
Yeah, we're actually working on a mosasaur documentary right now. I'm involved with one of the top experts in the field, in fact, on them. I own now a fossil that proves that the mosasaur, a type of mosasaur, was probably the biggest marine predator known. I mean, at a minimum, this animal looked like it reached at least 85 feet in length.
That is a big animal.
Yes, and 10-foot jaws and nightmare stuff. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
So, which do you think would come out on top in an ongoing sea battle, a mosasaur or a megalodon?
Well, I don't want to sound like I'm going to pick on the megalodon shark or anything like that, but the truth is that the megatooth sharks, that entire lineage, did not evolve until after the Cretaceous extinctions, where all the giant marine reptiles were dead, or at least as far as we know, they were dead. In fact, there were no big sharks left before the end of the Cretaceous. So animals like the Ginsu shark, Cretoxylrhina, they were all gone already. They'd been outcompeted and eaten by mosasaurs that were getting bigger and bigger and bigger as the Cretaceous end loomed, meaning the asteroid impact, etc. But I mean, a mosasaur 85 feet long versus a megalodon, which we know maxed out at 50 feet just by size alone, the mosasaur is much bigger, almost twice the weight, considerably longer, would have much more powerful jaws, and it would be much faster because its skeleton is made of bone and not cartilage. When you have a shark that size, its speed, it gets slower and slower. And that's because cartilage is flexible, like tire rubber. See? And tire rubber might be good for an animal that's 10 feet long, like a mako shark, that can top out at 60 miles an hour, make 20-foot leaps and turn on a dime. But when you get bigger and bigger, you start running into the problems like basking sharks and whale sharks have, where their muscles are so powerful, but the bones can't hold on to them because they're not made of bones. So they become more flexible. They have to move slower and slower. So blue whales swim at 30 miles an hour, and they can weigh 200 tons, but a big shark can't. Nor can they get that big. So structural limitations, that kind of thing.
Yeah. But it seems like you've really done your research on these things.
Oh, I have published theories on the fact that the adult megalodon sharks were actually primarily scavengers instead of predators. The smaller megalodons did the hunting. The really big ones that couldn't chase down whales anymore, they just appropriated carcasses from the younger sharks, and that's how they made their living. It was a nice food pyramid if you think about it. You got like 20 or 40 or 50 small sharks for every big adult, making kills and leaving meals, and the adults do the cleanup work. So
That actually kind of makes a lot of sense, considering how a smaller animal would be much more maneuverable and faster than a larger animal.
Exactly. White sharks, even white sharks, they get slower and slower as they get bigger. You look at deep blue,
Hmm.
she's like a Mack truck. So picture her being 2 times that length. You're talking about something that's going to be swimming at like 10, 12 miles an hour as an absolute max. And most of the time, when it's just cruising around, it's going to be like walking speed. So,
Yeah.
So, but this isn't the same animal that was seen by the man on the cruise ship, right?
no, no. If we're talking about the Quantum Cruise monster now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Yeah, the Quantum Cruise monster was. Now, I'm trying to remember dates here. I think that was in either 2014 or 2017. I don't have the book or the notes in front of me.
I think I just read it was 2014.
Okay, so a gentleman from the UK named Paul George, he was a fitness instructor on the Carnival Breeze, a ship that I actually saw down in Florida, in fact, during one of my trips down there. And while he was on there, he was called over to the railing by a group of passengers, and he was on the top deck, and they asked him if he could identify this very big animal that was swimming next to the ship. So he looks down, and he sees like the submerged head and the upper back, we'll call it shoulders, part of the back of some gigantic sea creature that's swimming, pacing the boat, and the back is awash. And at one point, the head starts to come up and break the surface as it surfaces for air. And he got a good look at it. They were watching this thing for at least 30 seconds as it was swimming along. And then it veered away from the ship. They were in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico, and it turned back towards what he said was back toward port from where they came from. I'm sure it wasn't going back toward port. That just was his impression. But, and he said, wait, I'm going to do his voice. You had to see this thing, Mike. I'm telling you, it was bloody huge. It was so big. When his back broke the surface, it was like a submarine. You know, when you see the water running off and everything is so big, his skin was like smooth, grayish, almost black, and everything. And the head was like a giant, like an alligator or something like that. You know, the head was 10 feet long, just the head, and you see it there. And all I saw was like part of it. I get a sore throat from doing
That's hilarious.
making fun of him. And I should be careful because this guy can like bench press like 600 pounds and he will like pull my head off. But anyway, so but yeah, so he was telling me and his account was fascinating because he was describing things that as I researched it more and more, made a lot of sense. Like, for example, I was like, "Are you sure this wasn't a whale?" I mean, I sent him photos of every cetacean I could think of, beak whales, sperm whales, you name it. So he's like, "I'm telling you, Mike, this thing was so much bigger than a whale." He goes, "This thing could eat anything." I can't keep doing his voice. I'm really going to get a sore throat. But hold on a second.
No, I expect you to do it the rest of the night now.
Got to stay in character now.
I will be hoarse. But and like he said, like I said, he described the head as being kind of long and triangular, but not super narrow. Okay, like he said, it was like a giant alligator's head or something like that, or a heavy crocodile, and he could see like underwater. What he said was like it had like traps, like really like massive things coming out here, and he eventually decided that those might have been like pectoral fins that were submerged. It looks sort of like shoulders, beneath the surface or something like that. But he saw its upper back, and then the rest of it was beneath the surface. So whatever was propelling it, which had to be a caudal fin, a tail, like waving back and forth, was draped down below and wasn't in view, let's say. But good stuff, Oh, and when he said when it surfaced for air, this was also interesting to me because I was like, when a whale spouts,
Mhm.
I've seen it on TV or something like that. It comes up and that compressed water vapor comes out in a blast. It's like like this, and it shoots up like that. This didn't do that. He said as it came to the surface, the water as it was surfacing turned white all around its head, just like white. Okay, and when I looked at like footage of crocodilians and turtles as they're surfacing for air, that's what they do. They release the air in bubbles before they hit the surface. See, so that this way it clears their nares, and then they come up, they take a breath or whatever, and they go under, like that. So this is more like a stealth technique for a reptile, like how a croc would surface and quietly and then grab somebody or something like that. But when an animal's that big, those bubbles are going to be proportionally so much smaller compared to it. I mean, if the thing has a head 15 feet long,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying? Those bubbles are going to, and obviously tens of thousands of these bubbles are going to turn the water white all around it. So the way it respirated made sense that it was some sort of enormous reptile.
So it would be an air breather, though.
Yes, that is definitely from his description what was the case.
Well, considering how much of the ocean is unexplored, it would be easy for them to exist without us never even knowing.
Yeah, people ask about that, and you're right. Only 5% of the ocean floor has been explored. That doesn't include the average, like 11,000 or over feet of water above that, or the other 95% of all that as well. So you're talking many millions of cubic miles of sea out there, and depths, etc. Now, people would say, well, it's an air breather, we should see it. But if an animal like that surfaces that quietly, it's not going to be like a big flag, like saying, "Hey, I'm over here." You know, that's number one. Number two, if you see it from a distance, it's just going to look like a whale. It's dark. It's going to see like a hump or something like that, and that's all there is. I mean, these things aren't designed to be sticking their heads out of the water and looking around. They're designed to be submarine predators. That's their eyes are on the sides. They're not up top like a crocodile's. They stay under. See, and then if it's like plesiosaurs or these types of or pliosaurs and crocodiles, they ingest gastroliths for ballast. Gastroliths, stomach stones. And that helps them in terms of their achieve neutral buoyancy. So if you got a lung full of air, you're just going to bob on the surface. You know what I mean? Like you got a life preserver or something like that. Whereas to go under, this way, if they have stones in their system, that helps them sink much more easily without losing their air, so to speak. See, that also means that when one dies, it doesn't float. This is something that I've mentioned before when it comes to like people that hunt Nile crocodiles in Africa. When they shoot a crocodile, they try and shoot it on the embankment because if they shoot in the water, it sinks right away and then they lose their trophy.
Yeah.
Because the crocodiles have these stomach stones, these gastroliths inside the digestive system. So if a mosasaur or whatever this thing would be is like that, then that makes perfect sense. When it dies, it's going straight to the bottom, and that's it. The body is consumed by sharks and sea hags and other scavengers and broken down, and hasta la vista, baby.
George Jennings says, so you're talking about the T-Rex of the sea.
Yes. Even scarier.
I've always believed that there's so much vastness of the ocean out there, and if you were at sea in a sailboat and you got away from the normal trade routes, you might never be seen.
Yeah, there's that book. I mentioned it in Monsters and Marine Mysteries, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was these famous explorers who I think they're still alive. They might be like Tonkiki or something like that, where they went across like the ocean in a raft.
Thor Heyerdahl.
And they had some very large creature come up, and it was like checking them out. So you don't know. I mean, and some very large cephalopods also. So I think that our mechanized ships, motors, engines, they tend to keep a lot of animals away, not just the size of the vessel. I mean, if you look at an ocean liner, it's a city at sea. Nothing's really coming near that for the most part. But if you even like other boats, big metal destroyers, cruisers, all this other stuff. So, but if you have like noisy outboards or inboards that are these roaring, churning blades in the water, nothing's going to come near that. It's when a lot of these sightings take place when people are sitting there drift fishing, or if they have a sailboat, like that trimaran that was attacked by an enormous squid a couple years ago during the yacht race, so.
I think that, and I don't know if it's proven or not. Well, that was a stupid statement, but I think that is the Lusca they think that's a giant cephalopod, right?
Yeah, according to the legends in the Bahamas, a lot of people think they live in those blue holes that they have there and stuff. But the Lusca is believed to be based on encounters with gigantic octopi, which there appears to be. I mean, I interviewed one guy, him and a couple of his friends saw off down in the Florida Keys, or no, I'm sorry, by Sanibel Island. They had a close encounter with an impossibly large octopus. I mean, like insanely big. And should I get into that, or are we gonna
yes, please?
So basically, they were down there. This was shortly after the Carnival Cruise incident, around the same time period, and they had a fishing charter. They went down for the guy's birthday, and it's in the book, all the details. So just giving the Cliff Notes version, but and they had like a 55-foot fishing boat that they were chartering, and they were drift fishing, and they're sitting there, and they were tossing bait in the water, and as Demetrius put it was really the smelly, disgusting stuff, whatever they were using, chunks of fish, who knows what, chum, etc. And so they're drifting quietly along, just a couple miles off of the coast of Sanibel Island, and all of a sudden, 30 feet of an octopus's arm comes up on the surface like a snake swimming, and it starts working its way toward them. And they're just sitting there. It's 20 feet away from where they're standing or sitting. And they're watching this. And he said it was like a reddish brown color. It was definitely an octopus. Afterwards, they went to the library and they pulled up books to look at different kinds of cephalopod arms and stuff. And smooth, like on the top, and then whitish below. They could see the suction cups a few times. And it was gigantic. At the thickest point, it was a yard thick. Now
Wow.
picture an octopus with an arm, I'm sorry, that's 3 feet thick. And they didn't see the whole tentacle. Okay. But the terrifying part to me is, so it starts exploring the hull of their boat. It's like touching it, running its arm around it. And they were like, first he told me like he thought that octopuses got that big. And I'm like, no, they don't normally get that big. And he said, we thought it was just curious. And I'm like, well, yes and no. You see, octopi have chemoreceptors, they're called, and they're suckers. It's like taste buds. So when they touch something, they can sample it. See? So the odds are that this thing was there hunting, and it smelled like this, rotting fish, flesh, etc. And it came up and it wanted to see if the boat they were on was a sleeping or dead whale, perhaps. So it was touching it to see. And then it decided, okay, this isn't edible. So, and then he said it withdrew like this and went under, and then it took off. And he said as they looked down, they could see more of the arms, and there were other arms down there, and then they saw this immense body. And they said when it swam off, it must have been 80 or 90 feet long.
Wow.
Can you imagine that?
That's insane.
Yeah.
All I keep thinking about is something as intelligent as an octopus is, and they tend to be very intelligent, being that big.
Yes.
You're not just outsized. You might inadvertently be outwitted.
Mhm.
That's a whole lot of calamari.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And in my opinion, I believe they go there to hunt manatees, because there was people that got some footage around that time period of what they thought was a snake wrapping around a manatee and pulling it under. And that it's mentioned in Monster Mysteries also. In fact, I analyzed all the photos of it, see, and I think it was a cephalopod that grabbed the manatee and pulled it under. Because a lot of times they shoot an arm out at something, whether it's a squid that does that, with their attack tentacles, or an octopus, and they'll pull something under like that. So a manatee would be like a cheeseburger for an animal like that. It's big, heavy, slow, and defenseless. 1,000 pounds of red meat right there, and blubber, very nutritious, perfect meal, to go, etc. But they were very lucky that this thing did not mistakenly think that their boat was edible and then attack it.
Yeah, would have pulled it under with ease.
Well, or even if it didn't, though, think about it. I mean, imagine if it latched onto it. I mean, I had, in my first Cronus Rising Kraken book, I had an incident where 2 giant octopi attacked a big schooner. Okay, it's a horrifying scene, and they're like on it, and it's a case of mistaken identity. And then as they're feeling around, it comes in contact with a person, and it realizes, oh wait, there's an hors d'oeuvre here. Pulls them under. There's more, and then they start exploring because, like you said, they're intelligent, and they start picking the ship clean. God forbid that could have happened. So
might explain the Mary Celeste.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
That's quite frightening, actually. I think I love octopi, I really do, but I wouldn't want to come into contact with one.
I never eat
that big alone.
I will never eat an octopus in a sushi restaurant. I'm very suspicious, and if I ever meet one, a giant one, I want to be able to say, I never touched your cousin. Okay? Seriously.
On the other hand, I'll eat squid till my brains fall out because I love calamari.
They're a little more brainless, I suspect. I don't know. But,
I would like to think so.
yeah.
Gogo earlier mentioned the Loch Ness monster, and that's a totally different type of creature. That's a plesiosaur, isn't it?
Well, that's what some people believe.
Yeah.
To be honest, I covered so many different aquatic cryptids in Monsters and Marine Mysteries. I
Mhm.
didn't delve into Loch Ness, to be honest, because it's number one, it's been done to death, and
Yeah.
number two, I am personally, as a master angler, convinced that a lot of the sightings of Nessie are huge Wells catfish. And this is an enormous species of predatory catfish that's found all over Europe and Asia. And Victorians used to stock them all over there. I think the biggest one they've pulled out of a lake in England right now is only like 150 pounds or something like that,
Hmm.
which is still not a small,
That's a
you
big
know.
fish.
Yeah, but I mean they're estimated to grow up to 5 meters in length, which is 15 or 16 feet. They're dark colored. They're very serpentine looking and such. They tend to sleep during the day under like logs and things like that, so you wouldn't see them on sonar. Think
Hmm.
about it, you know.
Hmm.
And they can even travel in and out of the loch to follow spawning fish.
Hmm.
So it's quite possible that a lot of these sightings, not all, okay, but are Wells catfish. In fact, there was one famous sighting that used to be on Wikipedia, and then they took it down recently, where she had described like this monster was on the shores flailing around, and it had antenna. It was like a big, like giant, like snaky long thing. And antenna sounds like whiskers,
Hmm.
from a Wells cat. And then it managed to squirm back into the water and disappear. That was removed on Wikipedia not too long ago, which I find that very curious. Okay, but this is a legitimate old sighting from like the early 1900s or late 1800s or something like
Hmm.
that. And whales are known to spring out of the water and eat pigeons regularly. They eat birds. They'll stalk into the shallows, jump on the dry land, grab a bird, take it under, etc. So if one of them overshot, you know, and ended up stranded temporarily, that could be evidence right there, highly suggestive that there are some of those in there, or at least they come and go.
Yeah.
Which might also explain why sometimes you don't have sightings for a while, and then they come back. One of those big sonar sightings, there was a big spawning going on with the trout and everything in the lake. So it would make sense that a big predator, they know when it's spawning season because there's a buffet there, and then they show up.
Yeah.
I'm
That
not
would.
trying to rain anybody's parade. I'm just
Oh
telling
no,
you,
no, 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 no.
from a
That
scientific perspective, that's
there are a lot of theories on what the Loch Ness monster is, and I think the least plausible is a pliosaur.
mm,
As much as the cryptid hunter in me would love it to be this relic population, I don't think that lake's big enough to house a breeding population of those.
no, I
Not and
agree.
feed them.
Yeah.
It's interesting though that they're along the same, and I can never remember. Is it the
Longitude and
longitude,
latitude.
latitude? Yeah, I can never remember which goes which way. As a lot of the lakes that do have um, other monsters,
Hmm.
I know they're a little farther north than Lake Champlain, but not by much.
Hmm.
Um, and what do you think that is? I mean,
What, champ?
I, yeah, I have a tendency to think that they are all. Um,
Huge fish
Yeah. What is the one that
or
makes all the great caviar?
sturgeon? Sturgeon.
Sturgeon.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get pretty massive.
It is
Yeah.
quite possible that you have some like relic population or an isolated population of white sturgeon or something like that in Champlain. They get enormous. I mean, a 15-foot sturgeon is a big animal. I think those brothers, the Hildebrands or whoever they are, at one point
Mhm.
they had something that they had caught either on a drum, like that they left it out, or on a rod and reel, and they were fighting it to the surface, and it was like the size of a moderate-sized great white shark,
Mhm.
dark above, white below, but they never actually showed the footage of it. This was one of these lakes further up north, again, Alaska or something like that.
Mhm.
Uh, But I mean, sturgeon have been around since the dinosaurs, so it's quite conceivable that a lot of lakes there, especially in, like you said, more northern latitudes, might have isolated populations of beluga or white sturgeon or who knows what.
DA, this one's for you.
Did you see on YouTube people in a submarine catch sirens on camera? No, I haven't seen that. I'm at to look that video up. Um, it's hard to believe video anymore because people have gotten so good at manipulating video. You know, I'm pretty skeptical on any video anymore until I've had a chance to have it analyzed. But I would have to see the video. Unfortunately, there's so many people out there hoaxing video and pictures that video or picture evidence will never be considered conclusive of the existence of any cryptid, simply because of so many people that have hoaxed them.
Everybody, the hoaxers are like an armada.
Oh yeah,
I mean, like just a week or two back, we had somebody sent me a photo that was supposedly of an enormous white shark that was stalking somebody that was in the water right off the beach. And everything. And I'm looking at him like, it looks a little suspicious. I mean, besides the fact the shark would have been at least 30 feet long.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I'm not saying that sharks that big don't exist, but why would one come in 8 feet of water or something like that?
Right.
Then I'm looking at them like, let me just enhance this a little bit. And as I did, you start getting this wavy haze around the image and stuff, and it starts to break up, and you could tell it was photoshopped, enlarged, etc. And then I put it out there. I said, this is totally bogus. And then one of my readers found it on like Times website or something like that, found the original photo, and sure enough, the shark was like maybe 10 feet long and wasn't even aimed at the guy, and they took it and they tripled it in size and everything and tried to put it out there saying, oh, look at this giant white shark stalking a swimmer. You know, I'm like, no.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
Nice try. No.
Well, and the worst part is show channels, and I couldn't name them, but there are major cable channels that are making entire shows that are hoaxes.
Mm-hmm. And you get a black eye from doing that too. It really hurts your reputation. You know,
it hurts everybody. Everybody that takes the field seriously. Every hoaxed video just makes it that much harder for you to get any credibility when you get some evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I was just going to mention the Shark Week video. I don't remember what it was called, but it was saying that there was a great white that was able to hold still, which great whites don't. They need to move. And it was able to hold still and stay underneath the boat. And then when the divers went down, it attacked them. And it was some giant shark. And people were eating that up, but it was a hoaxed show. It was fiction.
Lanita's got the perfect one.
Yeah.
I thought that was a legit show until I was like, wait a minute.
They had me fooled a little in the beginning, you know.
Yeah, when it first started, I was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
And then the more I watched, I was like, something's not adding up here. And then
the cell phone footage, that is obviously CGI was the slip up there. But now, if people are into big sharks, I covered that in Monsters and Marine Mysteries. And if you're going to get the book, I wholeheartedly recommend the Kindle version because number one, you can blow up the images, and number two, the links that are in there, because reference links I provide an abundance of, are active links. So you can actually, with your Kindle version, click it. So you don't have to go, copying and pasting or anything like that. And it'll pull up everything you want to compare. But we proved, beyond a shadow of a doubt, first off, that great white sharks exceed 25 feet in length. Okay. And I'm going to say that right now because one of my guys was a dead humpback whale that washed ashore, and it had fresh, obviously, bites on it from being, cannibalized or whatever, scavenged, I'm sorry. Okay. And it had a whole bunch of big bites on it, different sizes, much bigger than your average great white. But there were a couple of bites on one spot, and I got great color photos. I wish I could pull them up here, in fact. But the smaller of the two bites was 31 inches high. And we measured it on video with a tape measure, so there's no doubt. Okay. And 27 inches wide. Now, that's gigantic. Okay. But the bite that was right above it was the same width, but 38 inches high, which is when the shark went for its maximum gape. See, with the shorter bite, it was able to get in there and just take a chunk. But this one, it had to go as wide as it could stretch and then crunch down like that. So that, going by the most conservative formulas out there, I used all of them, okay, from different marine biology departments, et cetera. And with the most conservative one, indicated the fish was about 26 and a half feet long. Okay. Other formulas suggested something even bigger, but I want to
Yeah.
be, err on the side of caution.
Right.
That's gigantic. I mean, it's bigger than the shark in Jaws. I mean,
Mhm.
picture
Mhm.
a bite 38 inches high. That's over 3 feet. Okay,
Mhm.
between the two tips. So, and that's not the biggest shark that we investigated. There's a we followed up. I did the pygmy blue whale that bite scar, which was featured on Discovery, one of their
Mhm.
what's it called? Oh my God, Super Predator specials.
Mhm.
They said there was like
Mhm.
a 35-foot great white in the kill zone or something like that. And I got to speak to the guy who photographed it. He sent me beautiful HD, high density images of the whale from all different angles and stuff. And I was able to look at it and crunch the numbers and everything. And I realized that because the bite scar was on the top of its peduncle, like right in front of the flukes, so that it had flattened out over time. It didn't stretch, it didn't grow with the whale like people think. That's not how it works with mammals. But because it was there, it kind of stretched out from the movements there and went down a little bit. So I was able to adjust for the parabolic curve, and it still indicated a shark between 26 and 30 feet in length. So that's physical evidence out there that strongly suggests that. And the best is there's a whale shark in there that has fairly fresh bite scars on it, and that bite is 4 feet across. And that's
That's a
like
big bite.
ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, now we're into like something the size of we're talking as big as the whale shark, like a 40-foot animal.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Gogo asked if I believed if the megalodon still live in the deep waters. I think it's possible. I think it's very possible megalodon may still be out there. George Jennings has a question that I think you're probably better suited to answer, Max, than I am. He wanted to know what kind of whale Moby Dick was.
What whale was Moby Dick? This one right here.
Yeah.
Moby Dick. Yeah.
Moby Dick.
In the novel,
Mhm.
Moby Dick is a sperm whale.
That's a big whale.
And, and it's a white whale, either albino or white. It's been long. I haven't read the book since I was a kid, but and it was supposed to be the size of the whale that sank the Essex, about 85 feet long.
That's a big whale.
Yes, and believe it or not, sperm whales used to get that big before we slaughtered all of them.
Mhm.
And killed off all the big brood stocks, the big alpha males and stuff.
Mhm.
And now the population that's left is a little stunted. But yeah, they used to get to like 84, 85 feet in length and probably 150 tons, I want to guess, at that size.
That's a big animal.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a question that's probably going to go a little into tinfoil hat territory. But recently, when there was an article where a U.S. Navy Seawolf class attack submarine struck something in the off China. They say the official cover story is that it was an uncharted sea mountain,
A hidden mountain.
Yeah, I don't.
How do you hide a mountain?
I don't think there's stealth mountains out there. Considering we've had the SOSUS networks in place doing active sonar of the oceans since World War II, I think we would have known there was a mountain there. I think they hit something that they didn't want to admit, and immediately after they made it to Guam, the other Seawolf class attack submarines were called back to base to take on new gear. So I don't know what they hit. What do you? What? I know that's a big submarine. What do you think it could have hit?
I hate to say I didn't actually read up on that in detail or anything, but I mean anything's possible. I mean, if it's not faulty sonar or something, or a helmsman error or something like that, it's quite possible they hit another submarine. You get these subs, they're all chasing each other, following each other around, trying to be stealthy and quiet, etc. You got a lot of big giant metal objects moving around in the water, and boom, they're comparatively fragile. I mean, an impact can be devastating. They could have hit a large marine organism. A large marine organism could have hit them. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there about USOs, submerged extraterrestrial craft. A lot of reports of them. I mean, so the sky's the limit. But I mean, I have no knowledge of the incident in question, so I would just be throwing stuff out there.
Yeah, I was just kind of wanting your theory. Yeah, if you knew anything about the incident, because when they said that they hit an uncharted mountain, my BS meter pegged. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, it said hidden in the mountain in the one thing I saw, and I was like, hidden. What?
China's deploying stealth mountains now.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe it was the Carnival Cruise monster getting a little territorial and, rammed
Like,
into that thing,
back
said,
off.
ow, that hurt, and it swam away, but he damaged some a little, and, everybody lived to tell the tale.
Well, they said it was damaged, but not enough that it couldn't sail.
Right.
So they immediately changed course and hit Guam. But
See, that's interesting. The fact, if it wasn't badly damaged, that to me suggests they hit something that wasn't made of metal
right.
or stone.
Yeah, if you hit a mountain, there's going to be damage.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you ever seen images or footage of like warships that have struck another ship, the damage they sustain is incredible. I mean, their whole 20, 30, 50 feet of prow is just crushed in like tin foil because compared to the tensile strength of the steel, compared to the size and mass of the vessel, it can't handle an impact. It's just not designed to do that. So the submarine is a little stronger, but still, I mean, if two subs hit, especially unless it was a graze like that, I would think that would do some serious damage, stave in some compartments, etc., possibly cost some lives, God forbid. So maybe they hit something that was, squishy.
I think they hit a ninja mountain.
Yeah, I think it hitting something biological is far more believable than a stealth mountain.
No, it's a ninja mountain.
The octopus, the giant octopi that I use in novels to give them a unique spin, I gave them suckers that ooze molecular acid so that when they're grabbing whales, they could dig into their flesh better, and stuff. So it works on metal too, though. So makes
that would be very dangerous.
Extra scary. Yes.
I like that. That's very cool.
Yeah. It's horrible. Like, grabs somebody, just rips them right in half, melts them away. There's horrible scenes in there.
Large squid and octopi are scary enough without acid oozing octopus.
Yeah,
that's pretty terrifying.
It's funny. Before I came on here, the missus I was like, listen, I got an interview. I'm going to be on. She's like, how long are you going to be on there? I said, I don't know, maybe 2 hours. She goes, 2 hours? What are you guys going to be talking about for 2 hours? And I said, well, cryptids, sea monsters, this type of stuff. She goes, yeah, but for 2 hours? And I was like, well, I mean, when you're telling a story about a sighting or an encounter, these things, she goes, well, yeah, she goes, especially if you're telling the story. And I'm like,
sounds like my wife.
And I'm like, and then she wonders why her favorite characters keep getting killed in my novels. Why did you kill him? He was so wonderful. I get my revenge.
Anytime somebody brings up Bigfoot around me, my wife will go, oh, there goes the afternoon.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, boy.
As the only woman on the show, I don't have that problem.
I do battle.
Whatever you like.
It's true. You have to understand. You see, as an author, okay, this office around me, which you can't see of, is all like giant fossils and giant stuffed fish and native tribal masks. I'm like in a museum here. You understand? I don't get out much. So when I do get out, if I interact with human beings, I tend to babble. It's true. I don't shut up. It is what it is. Like right now. See? Yeah. And you're not getting any of it yet.
If your office looks like a museum, mine looks like the intake room of the antiquities department. It's got weird artifacts shoved in all these places.
I was going to start bringing you fossils about stuff like the shark teeth, the megalodon stuff, the scavenging, all those. I got tons of this stuff.
That's awesome.
We'll be here all night. So
I'm fascinated by shark teeth.
Really? Wait, let me show you the new one I just got.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yes. And ladies and gentlemen, we are taking a short break while we gather our teeth and
we can answer Go-Go. He says, D.A. Roberts, do you believe theories that people on Antarctica under ice keep many animals, what many people believe were dead? That's kind of leads into the hollow earth theory. I've read about that to an extent. There's a lot of good videos on it. But I haven't really dug in enough to really have an opinion one way or the other. I'd like to think it would be something legitimate, but I honestly don't know.
This girl
hold it up.
is gorgeous.
Holy moly.
It's actually almost white. Okay.
Wow.
Which means it's not that old.
It's got, it depends on the fossilization. It's got a perfect point. It's got perfect serrations and the gloss. Oh my God, this baby is is like sexy. I'm telling you. Okay.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So, and this is what you call an upper maxillary tooth, and this is a number 1, dead center upper jaw type thing. See, very
Wow.
wedge shaped. See that nice thick reinforced center to the crown, like a column, and then it's got these flange like blade parts here. See, they're thinner and they come down like that, like hacksaws.
Wow.
And this goes between the ribs, like in a dead whale, one on each side, and just crunch, pops right through. But when you get to a carcass and you got to get to the juicy bits that the other sharks can't get to, and you have these giant jaws, that's what they do. See, and you have to lose your teeth by smashing away and stuff like that. You just fit them in there, and yeah.
How big would the shark that tooth came from be?
You know what? Hold on. Let me get a quick measure, and I'll give you a guesstimate. Let's see here. I didn't measure the actual enamel height before, but I'm gonna say 40 feet.
Wow.
Big shark.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because you get about 10 feet for every inch of enamel height. So the enamel height is like 4 inches on this. See, so yeah.
You
so
see
I spend my money on crazy.
You see
stuff.
those surfer guys that have shark teeth necklaces? Well, that would be a big one.
Oh, weighing me down. You would. This thing would. Oh,
you don't swim with that on. Drag you to the bottom.
And or cut you. I mean, it's like a steak knife.
Yeah.
So Susan Parsons wants to know, has anyone seen the video of the couple in Florida who witnessed a creature attacking maybe a manatee?
Yeah, that's what I was mentioning earlier. Remember when I was saying about the octopus? And then this couple on Sanibel? Yeah, she's exactly right. It's if you look up, somebody can just go on YouTube right now and hit without leaving the show, but put a Sanibel sea monster. I got to interview the witnesses myself for that sighting, and they gave me the video footage and everything like that. It's very interesting because when I started taking individual frames, first the guy, Dave Carlin is the witness, him and his now wife, then fiance, they saw this thing. It was like 40 feet long. It went under their boat and then shot out of it like a telephone pole, wrapped around a manatee, pulled it right under. Okay, hence my belief that it was a huge cephalopod. They thought it was a gigantic snake. See,
that's right. Yeah, I remember you talking about that.
And then so he said that it was weird because they gave it to somebody to put on YouTube, and the quality of the footage, which was originally in HD, was like crappy once it got on YouTube, which is I found odd. I mentioned this in the book. And then when I took the individual frames, and you can see this, it's in Monsters and Marine Mysteries, so definitely check this out. Sanibel Sea Serpent or whatever I think it's called. But I took the frames where the strike actually happens, and when I took the individual frames and I clicked enhance on them, the strangest thing happened. I kept finding fogging on the key frames where the actual strike happens. Okay, you guys know what fogging is?
Yeah, like a deliberate attempt to obscure the image.
Exactly. Yeah, if somebody's testifying, on a show and they don't want to show their face, or somebody's in the background of a video and they don't, permission to show their face, they fog it. So somebody had done this. They have these pixelated boxes that are blurred on these key things. You could see the squares and they move around and stuff like it to block certain things. Why? It was done deliberately, and whoever did it was very smooth, very professional, because without enhancing the frame, you can't see the fog boxes. They blend in good. So this was a professional that did this. And it's like looks like they were trying to conceal some details as this thing is wrapping around a manatee. What are they concealing? Suction cups?
Probably. Would start a panic to think there's an octopus out there that big or any type of cephalopod.
And then Demetrius told me when they got back to shore after seeing this mega octopus right by their boat, they called it in, and he said he wasn't sure if he spoke to the Coast Guard or the harbor master, and he said, yeah, we just saw an octopus, like it was bigger than our boat and this and that. And the guy's like, oh yeah, he goes, yeah, it's been here for a couple of days now, like that. And
yeah, you're not warning swimmers.
Are you telling people, like really, I would think somebody would want to know that a predator the size of a whale is in the shallows and wandering around, struck me as a little odd, call me crazy. I would want to know if an octopus big enough to eat a manatee is, might be under me while I'm surfing, or
it might find a public beach and find a smorgasbord.
Yeah.
I'd be comparing my own body size. I'd be comparing my own body size to manatees at that moment. and
A
failing
manatee is, I'm
miserably.
telling you, a manatee is a meal on the hoof or on the, I don't
On
know
the
what you
fin.
on the fluke or the,
On the flipper.
something. But they really, I mean, I hate to say it, but they're like, it's like they're designed to be eaten by a giant predator. You know, a lot of the big octopus sightings have taken place around Hawaii coincide, and this is in the book, with the green turtle migration when the big female turtles come ashore to lay their eggs.
Mm-hmm.
And these sometimes octopuses 50 feet across have been seen by divers and stuff. You know, they've reported it. So there's a bunch of the incidents in there. And it seems like they're there to feed on 600, 700-pound turtles, you know, which similarly would have
Like
a hard
crack
time
open the
defending
shell.
themselves. Yeah. I mean, an octopus's beak can punch through
Mhm.
bone with no problem. It would crack open the turtle and get the inside with, little problem.
Something that can bite through turtle shell will certainly bite through swim trunks or a neoprene suit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I don't wear Speedos anymore.
Yeah, that's why I don't wear a bikini. Yeah.
I don't, because I have respect for other people.
I find it's a good way to scare away sea monsters, though. If I wear a thong, it's a manatee in a thong.
I've seen some of the documentaries on manatees where they would show some where they had obvious damage to their back or their flukes from propellers, but then there are others that had good sized bites taken out of them.
Yes, and there's one, I got a photo in the book, and it actually has like what looks like claw marks on it, like lacerations like that, elongated. And the question is that from something explainable, or is it one of these squid that have these hooks, like the colossal squid that come out of their suckers, on their attack tentacles that shredded it? It's hard to say, but it's not from a propeller, in my opinion. So.
Yeah,
that's fascinating.
Yeah, propellers are pretty obvious what did that.
I want to turn the show just for a minute for
Okay.
the benefit of some of our listeners. I was hoping you might share with us one of your own cryptid encounters on land. Well, at least in a lake.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, so we're talking about the Connecticut incident.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, no problem. Let me just preface this by saying that I did not know anything about Bigfoot / Sasquatch at the time when this happened. This is a long time ago. Okay. And I mean, I think I'd seen the Patterson-Gimlin film probably, at one point, but I never really paid any attention to it or anything like that. And you don't expect to see something like this in Danbury, Connecticut. Okay. Now, Connecticut is very woodsy, generally speaking. And where this happened is my family used to have a home on the shore of Candlewood Lake up there. And Candlewood Lake is a very big lake. It's got like 50 miles of coastline. And part of it is cordoned off with a state park called Squance. And they call it Squance Pond or Squance Lake, Squance Pond, which is a misnomer for a lake that's like, a mile or 2 miles, I think 2 miles long or something like that. Okay. But so Squance is really basically part of Candlewood Lake and that they're connected at a narrow point. And there is a road that has been built between the two bodies of water, a causeway, piled up stones and stuff that has like a small 2-lane, road that goes across it. It's elevated. Okay. And under that causeway, there is like, I guess, a steel reinforced concrete tube or passageway that allows water to flow through the two lakes and marine animals, fish, etc., to go back and forth. Okay. I'm just setting the stage for this, so you understand. Yeah. Okay. So when this happened, like I think it was like I was like maybe 26, 27, 28. I don't really know the exact year, but it was around that time period when we still had the house, and I would go up there a lot in the summers to fish.
So maybe a couple of years ago then?
Yes. I like you. You're nice. Yeah, a couple decades, half a century back. But so I forgot what I was talking about now. Oh yeah. So
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. So we I didn't have a boat back then, and what we would do is we would go to do a lot of shore fishing and stuff like that. So me and two of my knucklehead brothers we'll call them Knuckles and Chuckles for purposes of this broadcast, okay, since I don't have a release form. But anyway, we decided to get up, before it was even light out one morning, and we were going to, go up to the lake and we were going to fish the causeway. That was our plan. We figured those rocks, on the sides of the roadway on either side would have like tons of fish lurking down there. That's what we imagined or dreamed and stuff. And we were going to go pulling all these bass or trout and whatever. Okay. Such was not to be the case. We were due to deuce back then, as they say in Brooklyn. Because number one, it had rained all the night before. And so that turns the water like into tea. So visibility is vastly reduced, all that 10 or whatever's in the water and stuff. It also turns off the fish, but we didn't know this. Okay. And so you got murky water. It was also very gray out, very misty and foggy. There was a lot of mist on the water, and it was like dead calm. Like the lake was like glass. Okay. And when we were there, it was like 5 or 6 in the morning and there was nobody out. I don't know if it was a weekday or a weekend. Honestly, I'm surmising it might have been a weekend, but on one side of Squance, there are houses. Okay. People who have money that have houses there. And the other side attaches to the state park and goes into the woods. And I mean, it's like woods. There are boulders the size of houses. It's on a part of a mountain that goes like way back in there, and it gets so thick you can barely walk if you go off the trail. Okay. Just there's photos in Monsters Marine Mysteries. So we get there and we're fishing on the Squan side of this causeway, and there's like, you're on these stones and it's like this, I don't know how high, maybe it's like 15, 20 feet vertically, and you're sitting on all these rocks or whatever, small rocks and stuff piled up there, fishing the lake. So we got our stuff and we put our baits out, so our minnows and our bobbers, and we're catching nothing. An hour passes, something like that, however long. We're young, we're impatient, we're like, and two of my brothers go, you know what, screw this, we're going to go fish the Candlewood side. Okay, you could stay here. So I'm like, go. I'll stay here. I'm thinking I'm going to catch all the fish. The fish are going to turn on, and I'm going to be, killing it. And these guys are going to be jealous and whatever, sibling rivalry or whatever. So I'm sitting on a minnow bucket or something, or some bucket or something like that. And I start seeing something out in the water, and it was a chunk out there. I mean, I tried to get a visual using like the length of the house here and everything. And I would say this thing, when I first saw it, might have been 150 feet away, something like that. It was pretty far. And I saw this dark thing like bob up like that. And then it would go under. There was like some sort of water disturbance around it. And then it would stay under for a while. And then it would come up again a little closer. And then it would repeat this, And I'm looking, and I could see even from that distance, it was hairy. And it was like maybe a reddish brown color or something like that, So my first thought was, oh, it's a muskrat, But then I'm like, nah, that's too big. Beaver. I'm like, because it kind of looked like a beaver's butt, or something like that, or body, it was yay big or something like that. It was dome shaped and all, but I'm like, no, that's not a beaver, because you could see there was parts of it behind it and stuff, and it was bigger than that. And now I'm fascinated. I'm watching this thing, and it keeps doing the same thing. It goes under, and it would stay under for a while. I don't know if it was a minute or something like that, and then it would come up again, and it would, like, I guess, breathe and then submerge. It wasn't surface for very long, a couple seconds at a time or something like that. And but each time it would get a little bit closer, and it was still out there, maybe 100 feet at this point. I don't know. So now I'm standing up and I'm trying to see what this thing is, because I'm curious and I'm bored. I got nothing else to do. I thought if this is a fish, this is one hellaciously large fish, but why is it hairy and whatever? So now I'm like, it's a deer. I'm like, no, I've seen deer swim. The head comes up like this, like the fake Loch Ness monster, and
Yeah.
you see the body and stuff like that. I'm like, it's not a deer. And I'm like, it's an Irish setter. That's it. It's a big Irish setter. And because now I'm starting to see, like, behind it, there's like elongated portions, because it's a little closer, under the surface of the water and stuff. And I'm like, no, it's not an Irish setter. And now I start realizing it has legs. There are like legs, like behind what I realize now is a head, like behind it, like these, like under the surface of the water, but you can sort of see them. And the weird thing is that it sort of looked like a person swimming, I guess, at this point. But the legs, when it moved, they move together. Like when people wear like a mermaid costume or something like that, you could see them moving. It didn't go like
Wow.
a flutter kick like a person uses, I
Mhm.
guess they were moving like this. So I was like, I had no idea what it was. And I'm like, I got to figure this out. It was like killing me now at this point. I'm like, what am I looking at? Because I'm guessing at that point it was 5 feet long, the part that I could see. There was a head coming up, like a dome-shaped head. I guess it would break up the surface that were like this, and then it would go under. And you would see, as it went on, you see these things moving behind it. So I ran out of suspects or what I could dismiss it as and stuff. And I was trying to get a better look at it. And at this point, I don't, maybe it was 60 feet away. I really don't know. Okay. But I decided to try and climb up the hill, like back up the hill on the rocks to get higher up, the higher vantage point, so I could see down on it better, because I was kind of low. And this way I'd be able to see the whole body. And as I did this, I slipped on some of the rocks because it's loose, and it clattered down, and the thing must have heard me. And then it went to submerge. And as it did, and this was the part that freaked me out, and when I realized years later that I saw something very, very bizarre. But its arm, it had arms. Its arm broke the surface, and you could see it was this arm. And as it broke the surface, you saw shoulder, upper arm, forearm, like this, came out of the water like that. This much to here was exposed. And it was a pretty sizable arm. All right, it was at least as big as my arm, and covered with hair, which is obviously wet and dripping as it came out. And the hair was clinging to it. Okay, very wet looking. And it went under like that. And I'm like, and now I'm staring. I'm like, oh, is this an orangutan? I'm like, what the hell am I looking at here? And then now at this point, it was swimming very fast underwater, and it could swim fast. And I saw its shadow moving like this, and it was headed for that tube that goes between the two lakes. That big concrete submerged thing. And I saw like a shadowy form go under, and it seemed a little bigger to me as it went through. I'm just surmising it was at least as big as a person, in my opinion. And it went through, and I ran up the hill. And I was like all fired up, and I almost got killed by a car because I'm an idiot. But anyway, and I ran up. Guys, quick. There's a hairy red thing. That's what I was calling it, the hairy red thing. I said, and it's going to come through right now. Watch. But by the time I had come up here, crossed over without getting clipped, come down the other side, this thing had already gone through. And they're standing there, they're like, we don't see anything. It's like, you're full of it, And I start getting abuse and stuff. But then like 100 feet off to the left, on this side of the lake, there's all these lily pads. It's like, sticking out from the shore. It's like prime bass territory if you were going to cast in front of it or whatever and stuff like that. And something starts like crashing through the lily pads. Like it's in there, and you see like a disturbance, and then it goes under, and then it pops up, and there's another disturbance, and it's working its way down. And I'm like, is this like some giant fish, or is this thing, that I figure was concealing itself now in the lily pads and moving along the bank like that? And then it was gone. Okay. And that's what happened. So it wasn't until many, many years later that I'm thinking I saw a big, hairy anthropoid-like thing in the water. It had an arm like a person's arm, except covered with reddish brown hair that was, I'm not talking hair like on my back. I'm talking, like,
hair.
Like his beard. Okay. Right there. DA's beard. Okay. But more reddish and thicker. And thicker. I mean, like thick, and it was pretty muscular. Okay, but and that's the story. So then I started looking into it, especially when I was researching the book, and I found like somewhere like from 100 years ago or something like that, an incident where some fishermen or something on the lake there, they had encountered what they called a hairy wild child, which like Shannon LeGros from Into the Fray, she told me that's what they used to call. Like a lot of times when they'd encounter something like a hairy wild man or a hairy wild child, a small one, before the term Bigfoot or Sasquatch was known, back in the early 1900s and stuff. But and then I did this podcast recently, and a guy, if I can find the screenshots, he actually he had an incident. Well, I'm just gonna not bother going through into my phone looking at stuff, but he wrote in about it and messaged the host and all. So they used to go up to Squan's Pond in the 70s and 80s, and they used to camp there and stuff and fish and all this stuff. And he said they had 2 incidents there where something weird happened. One was they went out and they left their campsite at night, and when they came back, the whole campsite had been torn to pieces.
Wow.
I mean, ripped apart, tents, everything like that, scattered, etc. and all. And he said they wrote that off to just drug-crazed hippies, as he put it, or something like that. Okay, but they didn't want to go back after this had happened because they were a little freaked out. And then their friends were going like that following weekend or something like that, and they asked if they were going. They said no, 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 but watch out for the hippies and stuff. So they were making a joke out of it. So the guys were on Swans, and I assume they were on the state park side. They had to be there, and they were in a canoe, not too far from the shore. And they heard something crashing through the trees and the brush and all that. And a big buck, a deer, came charging out through this little clearing, terrified, jumps right into the lake, scared to death, and swims past them and just takes off and is swimming for its life and just keeps going. And then he said then they heard something crashing through the brush after it, but it stopped right before it would have come into the clearing. And it just, whatever it was, it stayed there. They couldn't see it. It was like in the trees. And they thought maybe it was a person. And then what happens is they're sitting there in their canoe, and every minute or two, like a small rock or a stick gets thrown at them. And they're getting pelted repeatedly for a long time, like 15 or minutes, or I forget how long he said, right in and stuff. Their friends were getting repeated stuff thrown at them while they're sitting there. And they're yelling, they're like, hey, we're here, we're in a canoe, stop throwing stuff and all. And eventually it stopped. They never saw the source of it. But that's classic Sasquatch primate behavior. Throwing things to try and like intimidate, scare people, etc. So it is distinctly possible. And when he heard that, he told me, because I know the place. He goes, I know the causeway. He goes, I know the pipe you're talking about. I fished that exact spot. And he was very excited because he was telling me he could corroborate they had an incident there where something in the woods was chasing a deer and then was throwing stuff at somebody, that they didn't like being in its territory. So apparently they're there.
There've been Sasquatch Bigfoot sightings in every state but Hawaii. I mean, and sometimes they are territorial and aggressive.
Well, I appreciate you telling
my
us.
mother-in-law joke there, but that's okay.
What's that?
I said you missed my mother-in-law joke, but that's all right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Oh no, it's fine. I'm not worried about it. I still said it. So
well, I do appreciate you telling your cryptid story, your Bigfoot story. Sure. And so to turn it back to our previous topic, I'm curious as to what started you. What was the catalyst that made you suddenly become interested in
aquatic cryptids?
Aquatic, yeah, thank you.
Well, I mean, are we talking about my interest in like marine life and fishing and all that stuff in general, and prehistoric stuff, or are we talking actual cryptids?
Let's talk about all three.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, first of my dad, who we lost to COVID, actually.
I'm sorry to hear that,
so
sir.
Sorry.
Thank you. One of the nursing home victims, unfortunately. But he was a rock hound. So he had an extensive collection of a lot of minerals, sometimes fossils and stuff. And, when I was a little kid, I grew up with this stuff. In fact, I have a bunch of museum pieces he gave me actually years back in my collection, which I promised I would never sell, never part with, and I won't. I always keep my word.
Was he a geologist or just amateur?
He was an amateur. He had a jewelry store.
Oh, okay. So, when you said rockhound, I immediately thought geologist.
Oh, no, he did all that stuff too. I mean, he was mining. He would go mine for gold in Arizona and Utah and silver and all this stuff. He was one of these crazy guys that would go down a chimney, which is like a hole in the ground that goes into like a bottomless pit, on a rope with a headlamp, looking for like, precious metals and stuff like that. Yeah, blowing stuff up with dynamite. I mean, like crazy stories and stuff. But then eventually he got into the jewelry end of it and the business end of it, but then he kept his passion up for, fossils and all this other stuff. So, I mean, I remember as a little kid, there were like mammoth bones piled on top of our piano. To me, they look like Godzilla's bones. I'm a little kid, but mammoth bones are big to begin with. Okay. And one time I stole one of his megalodon teeth and I took it to the Academy of Sciences and I traded it at the trading post for something.
Uh-oh.
And he never knew.
Oh, he never. Yeah.
Oh, I think I might have confessed, like a few years before he died. I'm not sure, but I used it. I got my mom a birthday present. Was what I traded it for. So it wasn't completely nefarious, But the guy was really excited because it was like one of those rare megalodon teeth. I forget what this particular location is where they get them from, but it has like the white root and the black enamel, And he was like, "Wow, this is really nice." where'd you get this, kid? Like this. So anyway, I'm diverging. But yeah, so I was exposed to that stuff. I, as a little kid, Aurora prehistoric scenes models were all the rage, so I had all those. And at the same time, I started getting into fishing. The first time I fished, I was like 5 years old. I caught a rainbow trout like this big, and you kind of get hooked, pun intended. So as I got older, I went through all these different stages and such, and I was very much into prehistoric life, obviously, and all that. And eventually, when I got the writing bug and I started becoming a novelist, I was focused on writing books about prehistoric life. Like the primary monster in my novel series are these extinct marine reptiles called pliosaurs, which are like a whale-sized monster with, giant jaws and teeth and whatever. There you go. There's one right there. Davida Bonadonna painted that, by the way.
That's a beautiful cover.
Thank you.
And absolutely terrifying.
About that, yeah. Scary stuff. But so when you're doing this, when you want to create for your readers, like I have a very realistic writing style, and people like that because I carry the reader along in terms of the way I write. But I'm very descriptive, and without being flowery, and I make people feel like they're actually there and they're in it and experiencing it. They get very passionate about it. The stories, especially when you kill their favorite character, and then you got to like leave town for a while. But
been there.
Yes. There you go. See, yeah, I knew I liked you. But so what ended up happening is when you write, you have to do a lot of research, no matter what you're going to write about. I mean, number one, you want to create what's called a suspension of disbelief, meaning the people reading your story, even though it's science fiction, you want them to believe that it could really be true.
Right.
I like when people tell me they went to the beach reading my book and they were afraid to go in the water. Because I know I've done my job. But you want to be very accurate with all your details and everything else. Because if you don't, you can rest assured you'll be at a book signing and some nerd is going to come up and try and say, well, Max, the meteor that wiped out the dinosaurs, the non-avian dinosaurs, did not actually hit at 50,000 miles an hour. It was only traveling at 47.6 thousand miles an hour, something like that. And the angle, you didn't really specify the trajectory. And then you're going to be like, next, But just kidding. That doesn't often happen. But, you want to be accurate. So when you do all this research, I started encountering information about sightings of things that are supposed to be dead and gone, like the Mosasaur stuff and things like that. And I would end up talking to people and acquiring more information, more data. And it just started expanding and expounding. And I just ended up with so much stuff. Eventually it got to the point where I was like, people started reaching out to me about sightings, like the Carnival Cruise guy. Mm-hmm. People laughed at him. He came to me because he felt I might take him seriously, So eventually I ended up interviewing a lot of people, and I thought, I got enough for a book here, and there's some stuff that nobody's ever heard about. This should be told, So that's how we ended up doing the book. But my normal passion is, writing scary sci-fi thrillers that, keep people up at night.
That sounds exactly like what I do. I've always believed that the foundation of small details that the big details rest on, if they're not right, you don't get the suspension of disbelief for the big stuff. People will forgive warp drive, but they won't forgive if you call it a P-32 can opener instead of a P-38.
Yeah, it changed. Oh, my editor caught me with that one time. He said, the pliosaur was X number of tons in this scene, and then later it was X number of tons. Did it lose weight? Was there like a Weight Watchers program for marine reptiles?
It passed a big movement.
Mm-hmm.
That's what editors are for.
And, stuff. And then
trust me, I know the editors will get you.
Oh, he gets my Facebook posts. I get these messages. You missed an apostrophe on that description for that post, and this is whatever. I'm like, thank you. You're the best. Love you. Okay.
Like, DA, would you like me to start doing that for you?
Thank you. not my Facebook post.
There you go. That's it. See, I need to give him access to my thing so he could just go and make the changes himself.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Except he might start writing stuff like, like changes to, so I was, cross-dressing the other night while doing this and stuff. And I'm going to be like, I'm like, dude, that's only alternate Fridays. You got the wrong day. So
that's right.
I have no problem doing that for you, DA. I'll talk about cross-dressing.
I'm like
just
that.
don't get with a net. Just don't do
Okay.
it.
She and I need to be friends on Facebook. In any case,
I haven't said anything to get me in trouble yet. I'm surprised.
Well, the
you
night
wanna
is
try for
early.
something?
Huh? Usually
Doors
something
open.
slips out. You know, especially these live shows, you have to be extra careful.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Folks,
Yeah.
take a quick second. If you remind you, if you guys haven't hit the like and subscribe button, please do so. If you guys are new here tonight, if you came here because you're friends of Max's, I would appreciate you if you hit like and subscribe to the channel and share it with all your friends, because this is the kind of stuff we do all the time. We talk about cryptids and occasionally stay on point and just have a good time, a good conversation. And again, Max, I really appreciate you being here. This has been a lot of fun. I'm not stopping. No, don't get me wrong. I'm not stopping. I'm just saying I appreciate you being here and taking time out of your schedule, as I'm thoroughly enjoying myself. I've done a lot of research on land-based cryptids, but I find that the ocean cryptids just fascinating.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No. Ladies first.
I wanted to be a marine biologist when I was a kid. And so I love this stuff. This is fascinating to me.
Well, whenever I run into a debacle, something that I can't figure out, I told you I always pester Simon or one of the other guys. I mean, these guys are amazing. They swim with pregnant whale sharks the size of a bus and give them sonograms while swimming with them. Can you imagine that?
Wow.
All right, Mrs. Whale Shark, let me just, please don't hit me with that tail. It's going to rub some gel on here. Yeah. More gel, I don't know. What kind of gel do you use underwater? I mean, I don't even know
but
how
it's
that
got to
works.
be a great big tube. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think they're trying to come up with it, and they're trying to make up some term for like when the females have like these big, like girly parts back there. They're calling it like a chidonkadonk. I don't know what kind of name they're trying to come up with, some sort of like funny term for it or something like that on the whale shark. I'm like, okay, it works for me. So
Cavern
anyway.
entrance.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That would be a cavern exit.
Yeah, that's true. Well,
They're not crawling in; they're coming out.
I'm not going to go there.
No, not that part. I'm talking about they have like these these I don't know, like they're just thicker back there, than the males are.
Mm-hmm.
For breeding purposes, like they're
like birthing hips, but on a whale.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. The caudal keel is extremely thick, and the and the peduncle, the pedunkadunk. That might have been what he was trying to call it. I'm not sure. The pedunkadunk. I'm not sure. That could be it. No.
I've been looking at dorsal fins to tell the difference between a male and a female. I should have been looking at their butts.
Well, no, the male shark has claspers and the female doesn't. That's the easiest way to tell the gender.
Oh, yeah. From the underside, it's always easy to tell the difference between a male and a female.
Yes. Of course, if it's a predatory shark and you got to get that close,
Men are always jealous of sharks. They have two.
I'm just jealous because they have the, their teeth are, constantly replaced. No dentist.
I know.
You could eat whatever you wanted. Oh, look, here's a filling, a cavity. Next.
Yeah,
the other one just flops down into place.
Yeah, just brushing
Exactly.
it would take like an hour a day,
And sharks will eat anything. There have been sharks that have been caught and opened up and had license plates and chunks of cars. They will eat literally anything.
Sorry, guys.
And a guy in a suit of armor minus the head.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Like what kind of armor?
Like medieval armor.
Like medieval suit of armor.
Yeah.
No kidding?
Mm-hmm.
I never heard that.
That's a sizable shark to choke that down, too.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember
Like
what
in
kind of
full
shark it
armor?
was, and I can't remember. I started to say tiger shark, and I don't think that's what it was.
It was probably a gray white.
It had to have been. It was.
Yeah. Or something else. You never know.
Anyway.
That's bizarre. In a full
pull
medieval armor.
Yeah. Pull up the whale shark photo with the giant bite with the guy swimming next to it. People are going to be shocked. Do you have it? I should send you the color version.
Yeah, if you just send it to me in my
Whale
Facebook
sharks.
Messenger, I can bring it right up.
Let's see if I could do that.
People have no idea how large whale sharks are.
watch me totally screw this up and lose everybody. Let's see.
Well, if we lose you, we promise to hide.
Just follow the link back in.
Imagine that.
We'll have moved by then, so
Wouldn't be any worse than the time one of the co-hosts was trying to leave the show and ended it instead.
yeah, I remember that. That was hilarious.
Just boop, it all went dead. Like, uh-oh.
But we didn't notice at first, did we? I mean, we were talking for a few seconds, and all of a sudden we're like, oh wait, we're not on the air anymore.
What just happened?
That's the joy of live shows. You never know what's going to happen.
That's a fact.
Did you want to run a commercial?
Yeah, this would be a great time to run a commercial for Dark Angel Medical. Folks, if you are interested in carrying medical kits, and if you're going to be doing anything in the woods from deer hunting to cryptid hunting, I would recommend you carry one because the life you save very well could be your own. I carried Dark Angel Medical kits throughout my law enforcement career, and they are the best kits in the business. And here's Kerry Davis to tell you why.
Everybody, this is Kerry Pocket Dot Davis from Dark Angel Medical, and you are listening to DA Ex Machina with DA Roberts. You may recognize me or some of my products from Dark Angel Medical in some of the Apex Predator, Lakeview Man, and Wild Hunt books, and you can get those products at www.darkangelmedical.com, along with training classes on how to use those products and save a life. Shoot us an email at info@darkangelmedical.com and be the difference.
All right.
Oh,
How is
shoot,
Kerry?
the
Has he
file
been
is
around
too
lately?
big. Oops.
How big's the file?
Oh, it's a big
He
shark.
sent me some HD stuff.
Right-click on the image, and when it says "Open with,"
Patty.
open it with Paint. And when it opens in Paint, then just save it as a JPEG.
This is only 2.3 meg. So why is Facebook saying it's more than 25 megabytes?
Huh. That's a high-def picture.
That's something weird going on.
You could
here.
email it to me.
No. Hold on. I'm going to go find it a different way. I was trying to copy and paste it. Let's see here.
Okay, so we've had enough silence for one night.
Here, yes.
Folks, that was our moment of silent meditation.
It's usually right around the 3-hour mark when we
get this one to work. Okay, there's one right there. That should do the job.
Okay, let me download this picture real quick.
Get rid of this
and bring it over.
Pull this back up. Oh, look at that! I didn't. Wait a minute. You're in the show.
Marshall.
Okay, there it goes.
All right.
And there's the picture.
Professional. Now that's a 40-foot whale shark.
And
that bite right there on the right side, that's a shark bite. And you can actually see notches from teeth still in there.
Yeah, okay? I can see them.
It hasn't even filled in. When a whale shark, they're highly regenerative. They have to be, okay, because they can't defend themselves. So where it was hit, that's called a caudal keel. And that's where it's like an extra layer, in my opinion, like a crumple zone that helps protect them from attacks from white and tiger sharks, where it's like very thick skin there. It could be 8 inches or more thick there. So it's like when something hits it, it tends to protect the muscles underneath, so the whale shark is not disabled, and the attacker gets like a mouthful of like calluses or something like that, almost callosities, whatever you're going to call it. But so the whale shark was able to escape its attacker, which, considering they swim at 3 or 4 miles an hour, it couldn't have been that fast of an attacker if the whale shark was able to get away.
Yeah.
But if you look at it, when they get bitten, though, usually that fills in over the next year and a half or so, and you can hardly tell that it was a bite anymore. This bite is, might be 6 months old, I want to guess. I'm guessing, but to me, that seems about realistic. This isn't something that grew since the whale shark was tiny. So that fish that bit it was pretty much had a head that size. Now look at the person.
Yeah.
How big of that bite would you estimate that bite to be?
Simon agreed with me that the bite was about 4 feet across. So the diver's a little past the bite. He's closer to the, like by the pectoral fin. If he was back here, it'd be a little bigger, but it's still like a 4-foot bite. And according to the number crunching, again, using the most conservative numbers that I could come up with, the most conservative formulas, it still indicated a fish around 40, 41 feet long.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I'm telling you, the book has some amazing stuff in there. Mega sharks, squid, octopi, you name it, I covered it all. So lots of stuff. And there's no hoaxing. I tell it the way it is. Okay. There's one account in there where I thought it was a little far-fetched, but I interviewed the guy and I told his story. So unless he's insane, which is possible.
It's always possible.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for the bless yous there. I apologize. My allergies are going nuts today. I think it was because it was starting to get chilly, then suddenly warmed up again, and now it's about to get cold again. So I think that's what's driving my sinuses crazy. And I apologize for that.
Yeah, it's that time of year.
Mark Napier says that's a it's time to get out of the water big bite.
Yeah.
That's right. If I was Simon, who took that picture, by the way, so that's his photo, and I saw a shark with a bite scar that big on it, I would be looking around like, whoa, I'm not feeling comfortable all of a sudden.
I don't blame him.
Yeah.
That would be rather creepy. I mean, it would be even more so if that was at night, but
there's a lot of theories out there about what is doing this, because like I told you, that pygmy blue whale had that giant bite taken out of it from years back. That was years earlier. This is much more recent. This was like 2017 that this whale shark showed up with this giant chomp on it and stuff. So I've read that a lot of marine biologists, researchers are thinking that it might be a great white that is suffering from gigantism, which happens occasionally, very rarely. And I explore that in the book also. But where you get an animal that for some reason it doesn't stop growing. Mm-hmm. And we've seen this in American toads that are normally up to 4 inches in length, and they can be double that, which means 8 times the mass. Twice the length is 8 times the weight. Okay? Yeah. If you took a 20-foot great white and you doubled it, you'd have the size of what attacked that whale shark.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean,
that's a big shark.
That could be the case. It wouldn't be a super effective predator, because as you could see, the whale shark was not killed.
Yeah, and that's why the whale shark was able to swim away, because it wouldn't be very fast.
Yeah, and what was it? How did it defend itself then? Did it, unless it slapped him in the head with the tail, which is possible, but that's, so we don't have 40-foot white sharks normally, because they can't effectively predate, at that size.
To scavenge.
Yeah, but I mean, there is stuff out there to scavenge, though.
Yeah,
you could catch a whale that was giving birth and couldn't,
or not paying attention.
Yeah, or sleeping or something like that. I mean, obviously they're going to take an opportunity, when they can. But the other possibility is that we have something out there hasn't been found yet, or is not supposed to still be alive. And I don't necessarily think megalodon, because the teeth are a little pointy when I looked at the close-ups of some of the shots, like the tooth marks on the whale shark. But there is a species that megalodon was directly descended from, and that swam the seas with it for millions of years, called Otodus or Caracles chubbutensis, which, by the way, I have teeth from that also, if you want to see it.
Awesome. Oh, yeah.
Really?
Please.
Definitely.
All right. Be right back. Back to the display case.
Okay. He's probably going to get really tired of me every time he says he has something to show. I'm going to tell him, yeah, please bring it over.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I love seeing this stuff.
Yeah. This is really
I wish
cool.
he'd just take the camera and start panning around his office and pointing stuff out.
Yeah. You should ask him to do that. That'd be interesting.
The things I do for you guys.
I know.
We need to get you to get a mobile camera so we could get a virtual tour of your office. I'd love to see your artifacts.
Yeah, but then I have to clean. Oh my God. My desk is like Einstein's desk. He has a famous saying, like people say, like a cluttered desk is a sign of a cluttered mind. And then he says, so what does that mean about if you have an empty desk? But I'm done. So this is a chubbutensis tooth. Okay. Now, if you look at it, you can see if we compare this to the megalodon tooth, you see how it's more triangular.
Mm-hmm.
The tip is more pointy. It doesn't have that round chisel-like tip there. Okay. And if you look at them from the side, it's also comparatively thinner.
Yeah.
More blade-like. So this animal, wait, get them mixed up. This one was more of an active predator, even at larger sizes. And this tooth looks more like a great white shark's tooth. See, it has that triangle to it.
Mm-hmm.
So and the odds are very much against it, but if there was an extinct shark still around, a megatooth shark, I think it would more likely be this one than a megalodon per se, although they're very closely related.
So, what in your opinion would you think the one that's the shark that's sighted in the Baja, Mexico area? The what do they
Is
call
that
it?
submarine you're talking about?
The Black Demon, I think they call it.
Yeah, that's a hoax.
Is it?
Yeah, that was made up.
I did not know that. I thought that was pretty wild.
Yeah, submarine was invented for documentary. It's you could see it. You could look it up and you'll find it. It's on. You could Google it and stuff. But yeah, that doesn't mean that there aren't people haven't seen giant sharks and stuff like that. But everybody likes a good shark story and such. But I mean, you could see from these photos, and I got oodles of them. Something is taking hundreds of pounds of flesh out of these whales and whale sharks and stuff. What is doing it? It's definitely a shark. The bite mark is unmistakable. The question is, what is it? And when are we going to find one?
Well, except for that orca that you were talking about, that's more of a
mosasaur. That looks more like a reptile of some kind. Definitely, that's not a shark bite. 100%.
So you think if sharks that big did exist, they would be prey items for a mosasaur?
Depending on the size of the mosasaur. I mean, the Carnival Cruise monster. I asked Paul, we were talking about the super predator, and all that. He goes, "Oh my, this thing could eat anything it wanted." He goes, "A 10-foot white shark wouldn't even fit it up." And that's the truth. I mean, the thing's head was at least 10 feet long. It's just a meal. But I mean, I think another issue you have is that killer whales are the sea's apex predators, and whatever attacked that orca, I'm sure it got an unwelcome or a pretty hot reception from the rest of the pod.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like, who knows what went down? That would be something to see. Imagine if there was a mosasaur or a pair of them, and they attacked a young cow like that, and they got jumped by like 10 members of an orca pod and driven off or whatever, or even killed. I mean, that's like a scene from one of my novels, actually, and such. But I think that orcas, if they encountered a huge shark that was slow moving and such, they would probably kill it. They can be, I don't want to say sadistic, but people talk about this. They'll smack a dolphin or a false killer whale and send it flying 60 feet into the air, just to have a good time. I mean, they could be SOBs.
Well, they're pack hunters too. They don't just hunt alone.
And so if you think about it, if you've got let's say you've got, like somebody asked me, actually I did a blog post, who would win, killer whale versus megalodon shark. If you Google killer whale versus megalodon, you'll find it. Number one, probably right there. And it's very scientific analysis, but they didn't really live at the same time. But if you had a shark that size now, think about it. You got like this, let's say it's 50 feet long and it swims at like 12 or 14 miles an hour. Okay. It's not very maneuverable. It's really at this point, more of a cleanup crew for carcasses. It'll eat things if it can, etc. But then it gets attacked by a bunch of killer whales that range from like 20 to 30 feet. They swim at 30, 35, even 40 miles an hour. They're organized. They're intelligent. They're like torpedoes with teeth. And they're not stupid. When they pick out a prey item, they adapt to it. When they go after the great whales, like a blue whale, they grab it by the flukes, one or two of them, and they dig in and they hold on to these giant flukes and they pull back and they immobilize the whale to exhaust it. They stay away from the head, the business end, as much as possible, and they would do the same thing with a big shark. So if an orca or two grabs a giant shark by its tail and they stop it from swimming, what happens?
It drowns.
Exactly. See? So this is what you were talking about earlier. Remember when you said the shark was like staying still under the boat and stuff like that, or even reversing? So that would just suffocate the shark immediately. They wouldn't even have to use tonic immobility and by flipping it over. They would just suffocate it. And as it was suffocating, ramming it, ripping its fins off, ripping its stomach open, they'd tear it to pieces. It would literally be like a bunch of Messerschmitt fighters attacking a bomber in World War II, except the bomber did not have a tail gunner to shoot back at them. See?
I read once that orcas attacking great whites will flip them over.
Yeah, they do. Sometimes they do that. They ram them and they flip them over. There's one where a female just jumped out of the water and she came down on the white shark with her jaws and grabbed it by, I guess, the back of the neck or something like that. They're the ultimate predator, except for what happened with that one off Norway.
Yeah.
But that was a young female that was attacked, just like a large calf. See, and I think their plan was probably to try and take her down, kill her, assuming it is something out of the ordinary, and then. If they failed, if she died from her wounds, eventually the pod would abandon the body, and then they'd be able to feed on it. That's what Komodos do. They attack a water buffalo. They get their venom in there, and then they just wait for it to die. So, nature can be horrible.
Yes, it can. Marshall Sirota had a question for you. He said, Max, why are orcas attacking boats off the coast of Spain?
I've seen some of that footage and stuff, and that's a great question. Personally, I think that it's what they touched on in the article. I think the whales are sick and tired of fishermen, the fishing industry, industrials, like taking all their food. They're literally getting starved to death. They have to survive, and if you see a boat come out, like a trawler comes out, and it takes like all the fish, and you have nothing to feed your family with, you're going to get angry and upset. And these are incredibly intelligent and emotional animals. They're considered to be the second smartest animals on the planet. And if you've ever seen some of that horrible like footage from Blackfish where they took like a mother's calf from it and she cried and screamed for like days about losing her child and stuff, they're emotional. They're going to respond emotionally, and they're powerful apex predators. They don't mess with people normally. Okay. And I have a theory as to why they don't normally do that. But when they get pushed to the limit, I think it's because they live in these matriarchal societies. The females are in charge, the moms, basically. And they are, like I said, incredibly intelligent, and they're taught mother, son, etc., etc. Knowledge is passed on. It's not just instinctive. They saw the great whales get slaughtered. They know. They've seen the factory ships. They still see it in some places. They know what human beings are capable of. They're not normally targeted as a species, for whaling, because they don't have as much blubber and all this other stuff that these people want. So I think that they know to leave well enough alone and, let it ride. Although there was some amazing incidents of orcas that actually helped whalers for many years. I forget where this was, off of Alaska or somewhere. And like the Native American stuff, they actually helped them with whaling. They would help them, guide them to whales that they could hunt. And then after they killed the whales, the whalers would let the orcas go in and eat what they wanted, and then they would collect the rest. And it was a team effort. They would actually show up and say, hey, we got whales, come on. And this way it was easier for them because the humans with their weapons and harpoons and heavy caliber rifles were able to do the job much easier without risk of injury than the killer whales. So it was like a team thing, But
that's pretty brilliant.
They're going to fight back. And I don't think they've actually killed people yet. They've tried to harass and drive off these boats. So they are, in my opinion, exercising some restraint. Because let's be realistic. A 30-foot orca that could swim at 35 miles an hour and weigh 7 or 8 tons rams your boat's going to sink. Unless it's heavy steel.
Yeah.
If it's fiberglass, that's going down. Okay.
I'm pretty sure I saw one bite off Bo Derek's leg once.
Is that the movie Orca?
And it's funny because actually an author named Peter Tonkin, who's a best-selling author from the UK, he's had like 43 or 44 bestsellers in his career so far. His first big hit I read when I was like 13 or 14 years old. It was called Killer. And I'll tell you guys, anybody out there, if you go on Amazon, see if you can get an old copy of the book Killer by Peter Tonkin, Tonkin. Okay. This is the book that really got me into not just marine terror, but I learned so much from his writing style. So, and we're actually friends now. Okay. And
That's
sometimes
cool.
I will pester him for like writing advice. I'll be like, I was like, I saw this scene on a Harry Potter movie where Draco Malfoy did a certain thing, with his eyebrows and stuff. And I could not for the life of me figure out how to explain that, and stuff like that. And I was pestering him and he explained it to me. And I was like, yes. And it's in my book.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's great, and I'm a fan, and, now I'm doing the same job, but, he's a very great, approachable guy. And I can't thank him enough. He taught me a lot.
I've got plans probably sometime next year to start a novel for my Codename Wild Hunt series that's going to take place in the ocean, and I might pick your brain when I start that, if you don't mind.
It'd be my pleasure. I got a lot to pick, let me tell you. and one time I helped this young kid, and if I'm not going to mention his name or anything like that, so if he's listening to this thing, obviously I'm sure he's not going to say anything, but I used to be very approachable to help people with their writing and stuff like that, even though it takes a lot out of you. And I spent like an hour or two talking to this kid on like Facebook by Messenger, and he wanted ideas for a title for this novel he wanted to write. And I'm not going to get into particulars, but I just, like, we were brainstorming, and I was asking him about this monster and what it did and all this other stuff. And then finally I came up with this amazing title. Honestly, it was a double entendre. It was fantastic. It was perfect. And I gave it to him, and what did he do? Nothing. Never wrote the book. Never tried. And I was like, what the? Yeah, you waste my time. I mean, I was tempted to use the title myself. I mean, hell, I came up with it, except I'm not going to copy somebody's story, something like that. But, you don't appreciate that when you do these efforts. But in your case, DA, I know you're going to be doing the book, so I'm down.
Appreciate that, sir.
You got it, brother. My pleasure. Special thanks to Max Hawthorne.
Oh yeah, well, definitely.
www.maxhawthorne.com. Make sure you leave reviews, guys. I'm just kidding.
Gogo says, "Can you please ask your guest to tell about good books about giant animals?" Well, I can show you one right now. It would be this one.
Kill the question.
Or this. Oh yeah, sorry. This one.
Book of the Year, Prehistoric Times Magazine.
Or this one.
Book of the Year. That was in Ireland.
That's awesome. Go check any of
famous authors too. I'm sure they were annoyed.
Have you
Halo book, and the other one was, I forget.
Have you ever seen anything yourself while you were out there?
On the water?
Yeah.
I've discussed this in the book. There's a lake in New Jersey, which I really need to get back to. Just since I lost my dad, I don't have my fishing buddy, and now my brother's married and has a baby, and so he ain't going nowhere. He ain't going fishing. His life is over. But so there's a lake in New Jersey that has real lake monsters in it. And when I say real lake monsters, I mean like giant tropical fish from like South America or something like that, or Asia, that are not supposed to be in this lake. Like somebody got them in their aquarium and then dumped them, and they're in there. Well, I believe that there is a giant freshwater stingray in this lake that's like 6 or 7 feet in diameter.
Wow.
Okay. But if you're talking real life, like stuff on the ocean, you would think somebody like me, who's out on the ocean so many times, I'd be seeing sea monsters left and right, or something like that. But the only thing experience that I've ever had on the ocean was the incident, and it's in there, where I was grouper fishing, and I don't know how big the grouper was that I had on the line, maybe 100, 150 pounds, something like that. That's still a big fish. And then something came up out of a 70-foot hole and took it and kicked this thing like yanked me so hard to one side, I smashed in the polling platform, got almost pulled over the side, and then this unlimited class tuna rod snapped in half. All I was holding was like the handle and the reel. Okay. And then it started screaming off like this. There was steel, like 100 feet of steel leader, 500-pound test steel leader. And as soon as it got to the 400-pound monofilament, it snapped it like it was nothing.
Wow.
400-pound test line. You imagine trying to hold on to something that can break 400 pounds of pressure. You're holding it
while carrying a 150-pound grouper.
Yeah.
My guide, he suspected it was a giant grouper, like a really big one. Like 8-9 feet long, something like that. Well over 1,000 pounds. Something like that, where he was able to just grab it and swallow it. And it's possible. I don't know. We saw the swirl when it broke the line and took off. The swirl was the size of my office. I mean,
Wow.
the water went up like that. It looked like a hippopotamus had rolled under the boat. So whatever it was, as they used to say in Brooklyn in the 90s, stupid big. Okay. I'm going to date myself there. It was stupid big,
I was just going to say, you got to say it like you're from Brooklyn.
Yeah. Get about it, It was stupid big. You had to see the size of this fish. My God.
That's hilarious.
Hey, Joey, hand me a beer. Yeah.
I went, the only time I've ever gone deep sea fishing, went with a buddy of mine, and him and his dad had I want to say it was a 35-foot boat, and we went out of San Diego out toward Catalina, and I grew up fishing the rivers and lakes of Missouri. And I get out there and I got my beer in the little holder, and I'm getting seat belted in. And the first thing I asked him was, "Why are there seat belts?" He goes, "Because there's stuff out here that'll drag you in the water." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Well, I get seat belted in, and back then I used to chew, and I got to dip in, and I got all my bait set up, and I've got my fishing rod, and I'm getting ready to cast, and I look down, and I swear to God, a shark nearly as big as the boat swam right under it. I put my fishing pole up, undid my seatbelt, grabbed my beer, and went up on the flying bridge, and that's where I stayed until we came back.
What kind of shark was it?
I don't know. It was big. The kind of shark that'll eat you.
Yeah. We saw a white many years ago in Montauk, back when there wasn't as many of them, and it was just like passed under the boat or something, following the chum line and all that, But I used to, back when I was younger and stronger, when I would be fighting a giant fish, especially a shark, I would quote Jaws lines, while you're like fighting the shark, or you're standing up, taking like, Brody, start that chum line again, all this stuff. Let Hooper take a turn. Hooper drives the boat, chief, this stuff. I would do all this stuff. But then you start realizing this fight is an hour in and it's not ending. You're like, okay, I need to shut up and save my breath for this battle, because it's tenacious. So
Yeah.
A buddy of mine went fishing off of Florida, and he said he caught a pretty good sized marlin, and was fighting it, and just before he got it to the boat, something bit everything off but the head.
Wow. There you go. That might be one of our,
Might have been. He said it was just starting to get tired out. He's just about ready to haul it in. He said it was just almost where he could see it. Then suddenly the line just went dead, and he reeled in, just the head from the gills back.
Oh, my.
See, if a shark can swallow, depending, if this was a striped marlin or a white marlin, then it means then you're still talking a giant shark. If it was a one strike, one bite thing. If it actually came up behind the marlin, tail first, and swallowed up to the point, and then bit down and left just the head, the bite shape would tell you this.
Yeah.
If it's a single bite or not, and the diameter. So it's a giant shark.
Well, he didn't have an estimate on how big the marlin was, because he'd only seen it as it got closer jumping. And
but he'd have the head and the bill.
But he said the bite looked almost flat.
Wow.
There was very little curve to it.
See, that tells you this is where an opportunistic predator that has a hard time normally catching fast-moving fish, when it's got a tired prey item on a line, it's going to seize that opportunity and it's going to take it.
He said he never saw what did it. It never got close to the surface. It just, he was fighting, and all of a sudden it just stopped fighting.
Yeah, I think it was Hemingway, if I'm not mistaken. Or it might have been Zane Grey. I'm not sure. I think it was Hemingway, but I could be wrong. But he had a marlin one time on, and it sort of like, died on him. And when they reeled it in, it had a sort of triangular shaped crush mark on it that was a yard across at the wide point, and then tapering. And that's the shape of a marlin's bite, except this was a marlin of insane proportions that had seized his marlin and grabbed it to kill it and eat it. and then realized something was wrong with the line. You felt the pressure and it let go. But I mean, once, just out of curiosity, got measurements on like what a world record marlin in terms of bite, diameter and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured that this fish was about 25 feet long.
That's a big marlin.
Yeah. So, and
imagine the steaks on that bad boy.
we're talking stupid big steaks. These steaks are like insanely, like retardedly large steaks. I don't know.
Like the Fred Flintstone brontosaurus steaks.
Yeah.
You need a really big grill for that one.
Yeah. Okay, then.
By the way, guys, one of us has to get up in 6 hours to take his daughter to school.
Well, if you need to call it a night, sir, we are coming up on the 2-hour mark.
Yeah,
so
I can for 6 more minutes.
I completely understand. Naoma and I might hang out a little bit longer, but probably not too much.
Yeah, we're both medicated right now, so
yeah, and caffeinated.
And well, I'm not.
You got any medication to help me sleep?
I have.
Ooh.
There you go.
Sleep fairy.
There you go.
All of my medication's in the bedroom, but I am heavily dosed these days. Thank you to my doctor.
Yeah, I didn't get to tell you my fairy story, by the way.
Oh yeah, no. Could you please?
Yeah, definitely tell that.
5 minutes.
Well,
let's
hear it.
In 5 minutes?
Well, you can do it we'll give you. Your daughter can be 5 minutes late for school, so do it in 10 minutes.
Right.
I'll write her an excuse.
Yeah, that's going to go over real good. Okay, let's try and do the Cliff Notes version of this. Really, I apologize to the listeners or viewers, but if you do get the book, all the details will be in there, illustrations, the whole 9 yards. So November 22nd, 2016, the exact date it happened, around 6 p.m., 6:30, something like that. Okay, it was dark. It was cold, 36 degrees. It was blustery. There were flurries, but it wasn't sticking because 36 degrees on asphalt is too, warm, let's say, for snow to start. It was still melting a little bit. Okay. But we were driving home, and I picked my daughter up at aftercare. She was 7 at the time. And not far from my house. And I live near the woods. There's woods. Like, if I go out my office window here, 50 feet that way, it's the woods. Okay, I've had mountain lions one time walk through my property, you name it. So anyway, I'm driving along, and up ahead of me, like a sort of level area right before a hill, I see some small object in the middle of the road, dark looking, and I drive an SUV. She was in the car seat on that side. And I said out loud, I'm like, uh-oh, we got something in the road. So she leaned sideways like this so she could see too, which was good because we both saw it. So I knew I wasn't crazy. Well, I am crazy, but I still saw it. So anyway, so there's this thing in the road, and I thought it was a small box, debris, something like that, So I start going real slow, and I start angling, so I'm going to straddle it with my wheels. It could be a box of nails, glass in there. I don't want to blow out, whatever. So I'm going real slow, and as I'm getting closer to it, I don't know how far, 50 feet away, something like that, the box starts to move. But it's windy, and flurries, So I'm like, oh, that's like a little lid of the box, and it's just popping up like this, But it wasn't. I got a little closer, and then I stopped maybe 30 feet from it or something like that. And it was like, it looked up, and it was looking at me. And I saw the head, the face, all this stuff. The head was about the size of an apple, maybe a small apple, something like that. And so now I'm stopped, and I'm staring at this thing, and I'm like, it's moving, it's looking, it's blinking, whatever. So I'm like, is that an animal? And I'm like staring at it, and it had like this, what looked in the headlights like dark gray, sort of smooth skin. It was hideous looking with black eyes and a black mouth, and it sort of looked like not a gremlin, like a homunculus from like the Sinbad movie or something like that, like this hideous face. And it kind of seemed like it had like a bristling hair behind the head. I don't want to say it was like a mane, but it seemed like the head was like protruding from something. And it had this look on its face like this, like that. Okay. Like it was very angry or upset. And I guess if you're like a small creature and you've got like this 5,000-pound SUV bearing down on you, you would be a little upset too. Okay.
Maybe.
So I'm staring at it, and my brain is going a mile a minute through the whole animal kingdom, especially everything in that area. And I'm trying to figure out what the heck am I looking at? groundhog, no. Raccoon, no. Possum, no. Like, blah, 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 blah. Nothing makes sense. It had like almost like a primate like face. Okay. And, but the eyes were like, ooh. And then like, I'm staring at it and I say out loud, and I don't normally use expletives in front of my door. I'm like, what the hell is that? And then, and she was staring at it too. And then right then, like, like, I guess we moved or she moved or I don't know what, it sprang up in the air. And I think initially it was hurt. I think this thing had like gotten injured, hit a wire, I don't know what, and it crash landed. It was lying there on the stone or the asphalt, I'm sorry. And, trying to collect itself. And all of a sudden, like I showed up and, it got a burst of adrenaline. I don't know what. It springs up in the air and wings come out. I'm not kidding. Okay. It had 2 sets of wings. And I drew
like a dragonfly?
You get dragonfly, but they were the exact same size. Okay. They were long ovals. Like dragonflies are kind of like come down and they're like little rectangular at the base a little bit. And then they taper. And then the front set is bigger than the back set. These were like similar in size, long elongated ovals, and they're translucent or transparent, and they're lit up by my headlights. Like you could see the edges of them like glittering, and they're doing this like vibrating, and it's just suspended like 6 feet in the air right in front of my headlights, about 20 feet maybe from the nose of my truck, 30 feet at most, just standing there like hovering and all. And I'm like this, like, and then she goes, "It's a fairy, Daddy, it's a fairy," and she's pointing right at it like that. Okay. By the way, side note, it was great because she was starting to have her doubts about Santa Claus at age 7. So this bought me a few extra years. Okay. Because fairies are weird. I'm just telling you. Okay. So as she said that, it looked at her. I think it didn't realize she was there at first. And then it went woof over the roof of my truck at incredible speed. And it was out of there. Okay. And the weird part is that, first off, it was an incredible flyer. Okay. And like I said, I think it crashed into something, or maybe a big bat hit it, or I don't know what. And but when it was in the air, like on the ground, it was like this dark gray thing. But when it was hovering there, it looked more like ethereal. Okay. Like silvery whitish or something like that. I don't want to say angelic. Okay. But it didn't look the same. It was like, and I think maybe it could change color like a chameleon, like, and it was matching the asphalt color. Maybe that's why it was gray. I don't know. Okay. But, and so this is what happened. It was just like this silvery whitish thing, but then the wings were literally like, you could just see the edges of them and they were like lit up by my headlights. I bet you if it wasn't lit up by the headlights, you wouldn't have seen the wings even. I don't know. But, and then it was gone. And I was like totally shaken up by this. It was like this scene from one of those Twilight movies where the girl finds out about the werewolves, and she's in that house in the diary, or whatever, the emails. She's like, are all the legends true? This type of stuff. So we walk into the house, and my daughter's walking on air because she just saw a fairy. Okay. By the way, this thing had a wingspan of at least 3 feet. It was not a small thing, and it was not this little tiny, delicate, Tinkerbell like creature. Okay, or anything like that. It was very scary looking on the ground. I mean, if you touched this thing, grabbed it, like if you were an idiot, like hold my beer, I'm going to grab this thing, it would have bit your finger off probably or something like that. You never know if there's more of them out there. But,
didn't look friendly.
No, it was very. I drew its face. Its face is in the book, and it's very unpleasant looking. What I saw, but she thought it was great. So she was like all happy. "Mom, you saw a fairy, you saw a fairy." And me, I walk into the house talking to myself. I'm like, I walk right in and I'm looking up bats, largest bat in North America. No. And then I start drawing it and all this other stuff, and the drawings in it too. And it was like crazy, And then like, and my agent at the time, not my current agent, but my agent back then, she was like telling me it was a brownie, she said. They're these larger fairies, and they live in trees like a nest that they share with squirrels and stuff, and they eat fruit and stuff like that. She goes like, you should try and feed it. I'm like, right. Okay, sure. That sounds like a great idea. But sure enough, come May, okay, when it was warmer out and stuff like that, and the leaves were green, etc., we came up with this brilliant idea to do what she said and go into the woods and put food out for it. Okay. Oh, we're past midnight.
Uh-oh.
Pumpkin. Let me just finish real quick. Okay. So we get this like a heavy gauge plastic bowl, like one of our indestructibles. get it indestructibles. Copyright Max Hawthorne, 2021, all rights reserved. But anyway, and so we walk into the woods, and I was armed, just as we're clear on this, okay? I worry more about two-legged predators than fairies and stuff like that. I'll take no chances, though, okay? But anyway, and we go about maybe 100 yards in, and we find this lone tree stump that had been cut. Really clean cut. It was like remarkable. It was just like there, meant to be. So I sat the bowl. We had these big, delicious blueberries, the ones you get from Costco. You know, the big suckers. So good. You know, wash them with spring water and everything. I don't want to poison any fairies or chlorine. Put it in the bowl. Sat it there. Felt like an idiot. She had me talking, trying to convince the fairies to come out, introduce itself, say hi. We meant no harm. I made an idiot out of myself. We sat there for about an hour or whatever, and then we gave up. Okay. But we left the food. So she had school the next day, and she's like, "Hey, Daddy, don't forget to go check, like later and see if the fairy came and whatever at night and all this stuff." So after I took her to school, I went into the woods, and I go back and I find the bowl. So the bowl is sitting in the exact same spot, and it's picked clean, immaculate. And I don't mean like a deer stuck its face in there and was like and left chunks of skin and blueberry juice. There was nothing. It was like something just like took everything out or something like that. There was nothing on the ground, nothing anywhere. It wasn't disturbed, knocked over. It was really weird, So then I was doing an interview on another show, and the hostess, I said, but probably some teenagers came in the woods and they, just ate the blueberries. And she said, right, because if you were walking through the woods and you saw some fruit sitting in a bowl, you would just say, "Oh, great, I'm going to eat this," And it was like a scene from the Shrek movie. Like, "Donkey, there's a plate of fresh waffles in the middle of the woods. Don't you find that a little unusual?" No, but she was right. So I have no idea what happened to the fruit. I'm sure it was a reasonable explanation and stuff like that. But that was the fairy story incident. Haven't seen one since, but I have been meaning to put some camera traps out to see if I could, find something. If I had had a dash camera that night, I would have been all over the news, viral, nonstop lecturing to this day, because this thing was right there, dead center in my headlights. Perfect. I mean, right there. I'm looking right at it, and I'm like, and people were like, "Oh, it was a baby Mothman." Well, if that's what a Mothman looks like, Mothman looks nothing like the statues and drawings that you see. Okay? There were no glowing red eyes. It didn't have moth-like wings. It had like insect wings, okay, membranous, etc. And it was, the face. It was just, Tinkerbell? No, I remember we saw Tinkerbell on the Disney cruise, and she did not look like that. Thank God. Yeah,
that'd be terrifying, children.
Yeah.
Except for mine. Do you remember me? We saw you by my house. She is fearless. Gotta give her credit. And on that note, one of us, like I said, has to get up in the wee hours. You guys have an hour advantage here, so I'm afraid I must bid you all adieu.
Well, Max, thank you for being here. We've had a great time. I've got your website up. People, if you want to find some awesome, fantastic books, go to Max's website, maxhawthorne.com. Check him out. And I think you're really going to enjoy the ride, because what I've read so far, I'm thoroughly enjoying it. Now I've got to buy a bunch more books.
Thank you.
One last quick question for you. Did it follow you?
I don't know what that means. Like the fairy?
Yeah, like the fairy. Did you ever find anything indicating it showed up around your house or anything?
This incident was really close to. You're welcome, Marshall. It was really close to where I live. Really close. Okay, I'm not going to say how close, but really, really close. Okay, and I walk around the neighborhood sometimes at night, and a few months ago, at night, I did see a very big bat. We're not supposed to have bats that size either. Okay. This bat had a wingspan, I'm going to say, bigger than my computer screen, probably 28 inches, which is bigger than they're supposed to get. But this was definitely a bat. I mean, I saw it plain as day. It came off the tree. It was almost dark. It was black wings, membranes, it flew right over my head, So I see some wacky stuff, but I haven't seen another one of these things. But You know,
I've been buzzed by some big cave bats down by Lake of the Ozarks. I mean, wide wingspan, way bigger than I thought they would normally get.
maybe there's one that got lost and is lurking in the woods of Pennsylvania. I have no idea, but
What is
you
the
know,
bat? The horse bat? Is that what it's called? Not a
I
horse
think
bat.
I don't know. I mean, I thought the biggest bat from
Hammerhead bat.
yeah, like I thought the big brown bat is supposed to be the largest bat native to this country, but I think its wingspan is only like 16 inches, and this was bigger.
Well, the horsehead bat gets huge, and they think that I'm not horsehead, the
Hammerhead.
hammerhead bat
Mhm.
gets huge, and they think it might be the explanation for the Jersey Devil.
It could be, but I'm telling you this
Horse
much:
face.
what we saw was not a bat. I don't even know if it was mammalian, to be honest. I mean, its body did not look like an insect, but like it looked like I don't even know what species like you would say this thing was. Like it was indeterminate, but the wings were definitely reminiscent of an insect. I mean, like
Wow.
they were unmistakable, and I was just astonished. I mean, my whole world just went like this when that happened. Because I mean, you walk in scratching your head, you're like, are fairies real? I mean, like I milked it. Like when she was like, Santa Claus isn't real. I said, why? She goes, because he's not. I'm like, really? I said, but fairies are real, aren't they? She was like, I said, we saw one. And she's like, you're right. I said, so if fairies are real, then Santa must be real. And she goes, you're right. That was the. But
And
now,
never forget. Oh, go ahead.
This is a hammerhead bat.
it's a cutie. I've seen that photo before.
Yeah, I love them. I think they're really cute.
Yeah.
In a terrifying kind of way.
I am very into animals, to be honest. If anybody doesn't like animals, I don't like them. I never tolerate animal cruelty or anything else like
absolutely
that.
not.
I mean, but sometimes animals have bad like the other night I was walking and there were two large whitetails on my neighbor's lawn, munching away on his garden. But anyway, and stuff. And I stopped. I was on the phone with a friend, and I'm like, hey, how you doing? What's going on? Hi, this type of stuff and everything. And then one of them starts walking toward me, and I'm like,
It's the Jersey attitude, dear. What are you looking at?
That's what they, but
as long as it didn't stand up and have long fangs, you're okay.
No, then I started getting this vivid memory of that guy who a buck comes up to him and starts trying to stomp him to death with its feet, stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I really don't feel like getting into a brawl with a deer right now. I'm just gonna. So as soon as I turned and moved, because I wasn't moving, they got alarmed and they scampered back a bit or something like that.
Yeah.
But she was curious. She was going to walk right over to me. I was just waving and talking quietly and stuff, But I don't know. I could barely see. It was very dark. Anyway, on that note, well, thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. It was a pleasure and honor, and thank you for everybody who tuned in.
Well, thank you for joining us tonight. It's been fun.
It's been an awesome time. Thank you, sir. We'd love to have you back sometime.
Just let me know. And when you're ready to work on that piece, just give me a holler.
I will. Thank you, sir. Hope you have a great night.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Good night, Max.
Bye. Good night.
Well, that was really fun.
Yeah, that was
one
an
of my
interesting
favorite
time.
subjects. Yeah.
Heck yeah.
I didn't mean to say that like it was a surprise. I mean, that was really fun.
Yeah. No, it was a great time. I love talking
Yeah.
about cryptids I didn't know that much about.
Yeah.
And the thought of a Mosasaurus out there is freaking terrifying.
Absolutely.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
And Annette wants to retire near the ocean. That's enough for me to go, no, I don't want to be anywhere near the ocean.
I have a funny story about that. My husband is not a water person, and I can't stay out of water when I'm near it. And last year, my kids and my husband and I, we all met in Florida. And the day we went to the beach, we got there and everybody was setting up, and I just dropped everything and walked straight into the water. We were there for about, 5, 6, 7 hours, something like that. I came out of the water twice, once to show my husband how to feed the seagulls so that he would be entertained, and once to get a drink of water. The third time I came out of the water, we left. But the fun story is I'm out there in the water, and of course the beach slopes down. And so when you're looking at the beach, you really can't you know.
Mhm.
And I said to my son, who was standing next to me, I said, I don't see my husband anywhere. He says, how can you miss him, Mom? And I said, all I see are feet and I don't see him. And he says, well, look, bare feet, bare feet, bare feet, work boots, bare feet. He never even took off his work boots. That's how much he loves water.
That's
And
funny.
so, yeah,
I-
I've teased him about it ever since.
When I was a much younger man, me and some friends of mine were on a beach in California, and we brought a great big bag of popcorn with us because we wanted a snack and didn't think of anything else. I mean, we just like, yeah, let's just buy some popcorn. So we were out there and we started attracting seagulls. So we were throwing them bits of popcorn to get them to leave us alone. All that did was attract more seagulls. Well, there's a guy next to us who had been being an absolute dick the whole time we were there. And we're like, you know what? Let's just leave. Let's go do something else. So we got up to leave and we still had about half of that bag of popcorn. And I just went whoosh and threw it all over him.
Oh, no.
He got mobbed.
I bet he did.
Like, I hope they eat him.
My husband was amazed that I got a seagull I held a cracker out right in front of me and I got it to just sit, just right in front of me and then I finally handed it and then it took it out of my hand and he was just amazed by that. But
usually
you're not
seagulls are just
feed them, but
yeah, seagulls are just winged assholes most of the time. Oh my God, I hate those things.
Oh, I love them. I have a lot of fun with them. They're really good indicators of whether or not you should be in the water. If they start diving for bait fish, that means there's sharks out there too.
Yeah.
So you watch what the seagulls are doing, and they'll help you.
Every time I think of seagulls, I think of Finding Nemo. Mine, mine, mine.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, I have to be honest with you. I've got a tremendous pain in my side and I keep shifting. Yeah, I keep shifting and it's not going away. That's why I go this way and then I go that way. And
I've been trying to rest as much as possible too. I'm still recovering.
Yeah.
So it's a process. So we'll go ahead and start wrapping things up. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. I want to thank Max Hawthorne. You can check all his books at maxhawthorne.com. He was an awesome guest. We got to talk about aquatic cryptids, which we really hadn't done before, which I think was fascinating. We definitely got to do that again sometime. And Naomi, you are awesome as always.
We're all awesome here.
Big Cheshire cat grin. And I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate all of you. And it's just always a good time. We get to hang out like old friends and chat and talk about weird stuff like cryptids and, occasionally even stay on subject. And we were pretty good tonight. We stayed on subject a lot.
Yeah, we were pretty fantastic.
Yeah, we didn't deviate a whole lot. So kudos to us, which is weird because generally we take at least one quantum leap off in another direction.
And I was really surprised because as heavily medicated as we are, it's pretty amazing that we were able to.
Well, I apologize again for my allergies. It's like my sinuses are causing a tickle in my throat, and I'm constantly trying to cough. It's just driving me nuts. So I'm going to get off here and take some meds and probably go to bed.
I think I'm probably going to do the same thing.
Probably not a bad idea. Well, folks, hope you hit that like and subscribe button. Share the channel far and wide. Let everybody know about all the crazy things we do over here. And anybody you know that might be interested in cryptids or horror novels or anything of that sort, send them our direction. And if you guys haven't had a chance to check out my books, I hope you would head over to my page, which is daroberts.net, where you can check out all of my works, from the cryptid books to the zombie books to the sci-fi books to the coming fantasy novel. Again, I'm sorry about that. My throat is pretty tore up. Or if you want to contact us, you can reach us at daroberts@daroberts.net, or we also have a P.O. box. You can contact us by mail at P.O. Box 4614, Springfield, Missouri, 65808-4614. And we appreciate all you guys being here tonight. You guys are awesome as always, and we thank you guys so much. And hopefully we will see you on Saturday, where we were going to be discussing America's Stonehenge, and it's going to be a good time. So thank you guys. Appreciate you guys being here. And Naoma, hope you have a wonderful night, and I will see you next week. I will holler at you later. Good night. If I can find the closer. There we go.
Thank you for joining us tonight on DAX Machina. If you ever have an encounter of your own that you wish to discuss, contact us at daroberts@daroberts.net. You can remain completely anonymous if you wish. Pull your covers up tight and keep a nightlight burning bright. Oh, and did you forget to lock your doors?
Huh?